Big news. I have some important news for you.
Interesting news.
It's Blake and Aaron's Spilling the Tea with Sandy.
Cayman's top news headlines of the day from CMR.
Brought to you by J. Michael, fashion for everyone. Good morning, Sandy.
Good morning, Blake. How you doing?
We are good. Back at it on a Monday.
Yes, happy Monday to everyone. It was a relatively uneventful weekend up until this morning.
So you're saying crime is down?
Well, not quite.
No? Okay. Because that would be a story.
Yes, indeed. But no, what we've got is the fire station in Northside. Looks like it burnt to the ground.
What?
I know. Crazy.
How does a fire station burn down?
I tell
the fire
you what,
trucks are right there.
we would love to know. But it was massive. We've got some footage of it, and it looks really, really crazy, to be honest. So we'll wait until we get some official word on how it happened. But it looks a little bit suspicious because, you know, those people Northside have been complaining to me for a minute that there's never anybody there. So maybe they're like, well, what's the use of having the fire station? I don't know.
Wait, isn't the fire station supposed to be manned?
Not the fire station, the police station.
Oh, the police station.
It's the police station. My apologies. Did I say fire station earlier?
You did, yes.
Yeah. No, it's the police station that burnt down.
Wow.
Yeah, it looks pretty bad. So we're waiting to get some after. If you live in Northside, folks, take a shot for me of what it looks like after the fire and let me have a look and see. Pretty crazy. We have a missing teen. The RCIPS is asking for the public's assistance in locating this young lady. She's gone missing a couple times. But you know, the police are saying, by the way, Shania Beckford, only 15 years old, they're trying to locate her. Since Saturday, she went missing, but they're reminding the public that it is a criminal offense to harbor a minor, and you can be looking at some jail time as well as a fine of $2,000. So if you are harboring her, keep that in mind. It's probably not a good idea. Yeah,
I would agree.
So congrats to all of our young athletes. We had the 345 FC. They competed in the world's largest youth football tournament, which occurred at in Sweden. It's the Gothia Cup in Gothenburg, Sweden. The largest youth football tournament in the entire world. And this tournament featured players from more than 140 nations playing at what they say is a very high level. So 345 FC advanced to the tournament's round of 32 after finishing second in its group. And in the knockout round, they fell in a penalty shootout to the Norwegian side Tune IL. So still, I think that's pretty good. So congratulations to them.
Hey,
and speaking of knockouts and in such events, give us an update on how your tournament went, your kickball tournament went on Saturday.
I was going to say congrats to you for playing. You got a kick, didn't you, in there?
Yeah. I got a kick. Made it to first base.
You made it on base?
Yep.
Sandy Hill was out there on the DMS air staff team. So we lost 2 games and then we were knocked out, but we knew we were not going to be very good anyway.
Yeah.
And then, but we were out there for most of the day because I ended up reffing a lot of the games.
Okay.
Got real competitive. Tortuga is really competitive. PDL is really competitive. Davenport. In the final was Cayman Rugby, who, by the way, were at a disadvantage because they only had 6 players on their team. They're supposed to have 9 on the field, so they played with less people. They made it to the final, but they lost to Balls of Duty. They were really good, actually.
Yes.
So
I mean, are they like a professional kickballing team? Because I saw them and I was quite impressed.
I think they're just athletic and, they probably play softball.
Look at the time already.
Yeah. And they won the $2,000 cash prize.
Nice.
So congrats to them. All right. Thanks, Sandy. We'll see you tomorrow.
Bigger, better, bolder.
The cold, hard truth is taking talk to the next level. Right here on Bobo 89.1 FM, Cayman's Community Radio.
We are still spilling the tea.
And committed to being part of the change that Cayman so desperately needs. Join Sandy Hill weekdays from 7:30 a.m. for Premier Access, Cayman Voices, Truthful Thursdays, and much more. Cayman's #1 talk show is now bigger, better, bolder, and more than talk. Getting results with hot topics, consumer reports, court exposés, and more.
I've come to set the record straight. I've come to shine the light on you. Let me introduce myself. I am the cold, hard truth.
Now, from the CMR studio in Grand Cayman,
Live, direct.
it's the cold, hard truth. Now, join the conversation on 345-936-2626.
That number again is
345-936-2626.
All right, folks, happy Monday. Good morning. We are back in the classroom, back in the saddle. About to giddy up out of here. How's everyone doing this morning? Hope that you guys had a fantastic weekend. Lots to cover. Although I feel like this was a little bit of a slower weekend. We still have some things to cover. Yes. Good morning to Miss Vernita. Up early from 5:56 this morning. Whoa. OMG. How are you? Omiria says, pleasant good morning, Sandy, and our 3 islands. It's another beautiful day in the Cayman Islands. Yes, good morning to everyone in Cayman Brac and Little Cayman. So good to know that some of you are able to tune in. Someone messaged me last week on the Brac saying that they couldn't get the other stations there. And I got word that they were doing some sort of, like they had some sort of outage, so they were aware of the situation. But they said that apparently they couldn't get Radio Cayman, Breeze, or Rooster. So I don't know what was going on. It sounds like something at the tower. They say the only 3 stations on Cayman Brac are all off air. We don't have much, but it's the elderly, but it's all the elderly has for communication. Wow. So I heard that they had to reboot part of their system at Radio Cayman, and they weren't aware of any issues on Thursday, but they would have the engineer check it out and see what was going on. So hopefully those are back. But of course, you can always listen to the #1 talk show, Bobo, on Bobo 89.1 FM. No shade, just giving you all the cold, hard truth. So, of course, unfortunately, it's not, I don't think you guys can get it on the frequency there, but listen, you can get it on online. Now, I got some good news for y'all. I'm trying to get a better picture. I got some, somebody's trying to send me a picture here, but I need to teach y'all some photography 101. When there's light in the background of someone or something, whether it's natural light, like the sun is in the background, you got to find a way to get closer to your subject and be very, very careful, because the light blows you out. You guys see it here sometimes on the show. We always tell our guests, don't stand in front of or don't sit in front of a window during an online interview. And that's exactly why, because that natural light can be extremely harsh and it blows out like the picture, right? So you guys see that, or the video even. You might see that in our live feed sometimes when people join the program. So if you want to listen to Bobo, one way in which you can do it on the sister islands, going to give Flo a shameless plug this morning, is over the weekend, they announced that they now have fiber available to all of Cayman Brac. Oh my gosh. Can we do a major announcement here? Hold on. Let me get my announcement voice ready. Good morning, Cayman Brac residents. We are pleased to announce that Flow has finally delivered fiber to you, and you can get it anywhere in the beautiful island of Cayman Brac. So call them today at whatever their phone number is. So yes, finally, I praise the Lord. I mean, seriously, our islands are so flat. I've never understood why it takes so long to dig into the ground and throw up some fiber. But I don't know the logistics of it. But thank goodness that finally Brackers, everybody in the Brack can get them some fiber, honey child, because boy, they have suffered. I know. Listen, I know. Every single one of them, like the south side and the what side? Okay, help me out, Brackers. Any Brackers listening to the show this morning? Curtis, are you listening? Help me out with this one. So when you go over that road, the cut through road, so that would be oh Lord, what's that road called again? Y'all help Brackers, help me out now because I'm a little bit clueless. It's like the one major. It's where the Ashton Ruddy, I guess that'd be Ashton Ruddy Road. Is that what it's called? But that's the one. So you go over, it's like it goes up a little bit and then you come down. So when you go down that road and you go to the left, is that the east side? Y'all can tell how horrible I am at directions. Down that way was atrocious for not having any fiber. And for years, people are always complaining like, OMG, like Sandy down this way, your cell phone signal drops. I think it's because of how the bluff is like positioned. It kind of blocks like a lot of stuff. And so, yeah, they were like, we can never get any decent fiber, honey child. So we don't know fiber. They couldn't get cell network. They couldn't get internet. Like they were really, really suffering. So thank goodness. Now they can get fiber. This is something I'd be excited if I lived in the Brac. And in fact, one of my customers messaged me just last week and said that, she has finally gotten fiber. And I said, oh my goodness, that's wonderful. So give them a call. I hope they can keep up with all the requests now, because I think a lot of people will definitely want to swap over. So they were there this Saturday at Marketplace and from 8 to 4, signing people up. And 200 download speeds. And they said you got a free month. Sign up for 1 free month. Okay. All right. Do that, then call me. Wink, wink. If you know, you know. All right, folks. Good stuff. I don't know if they're going to be doing any other promotions, but I suppose they will make the relevant announcement. But this was the one that went up on Saturday. So I'm sure they'll continue to do their promos and stuff for Cayman Brac. So get on the fiber. And then that way, when you're at home with such fast speeds, you can tune into Bobo first thing in the morning. And, you've got our Bobo links online and you can just go to those and you're good to go. So congratulations to Flo, getting there slowly but surely. All right. So breaking news this morning, we have shocking news, quite honestly. Somebody sent me a message and said the Northside police station, let me get it right now, not the fire station, the police station is on fire. And I thought, do you mean literal fire or on fire like things are going on there? Like it's hot, like they're finally working. I wasn't quite sure how to interpret and take that. So as it turns out, as I was going through my messages, I then saw that it was a literal fire, sorry. And I'm like, whoa. Let me show that to you all here. Just give me one quick second. Yeah, so it's pretty crazy. What a mess. We say, honey child. That is something else. Now, I've been receiving complaints from the residents of Northside, which we reported to the police commissioner, that nobody's ever there. And the ones that do show up at the station are like falling asleep. hmm That's what the residents of Northside have informed me. They're like, Sandy, these officers are never there. And if they are there, we go in there, we find them with their shirts off and sleeping. And I was like, wow. Wow. That's a little disappointing to say the least. And meanwhile, the North Side residents are complaining about drugs and break-ins and domestic incidents and all kind of stuff that could keep the police in North Side busy. I mean, they don't have to sleep, They got things to do. So let me show all of you the footage this morning. Give me 1 second here. This is like, I was like, what on earth is going on? Yeah. Things pretty hot there, honey chill. So it looks like substantial damage has been done to this facility. I mean, the video shows it engulfed in flames. I don't know how long the fire crew took to get there, but they might have been a little bit too late. Have a look at this. Look at that fire. Wow. Flames coming through the top, honey chill. Big thing of smoke. That looks like quite the fire. So it looks like the whole thing is more or less engulfed, I'll be honest with you. So we'll try to get some footage. We'll try to get a picture of the aftermath of it to see exactly what we're looking at. Wow, look at that. That's done for. I think that whole facility is done for. Right through the roof. My goodness. What a hot mess. No, sir. So that's, I guess the fire services finally showed up and out the fire. Now, this footage came in after 2 o'clock, so I'm assuming the fire would have happened right before then. Wow. We'll keep an eye on that for you. Good morning to Omiria. Miss Alice is here. Diamond Princess. Diamond Princess says, good morning to everyone. Miss Morna is here. Liana says, blessed morning, San and Cayman. Thank you so much. Wee Wee's in the house. Yes, I meant to say police station. I think at some point earlier I said fire, but it's the police station. RCIPS. Good morning, Miss Dean. Patricia is in the house. Patricia Blake, so good to see you. Miss Iva says, morning, my lovely classmates. Hope everyone had a good weekend. Yes, indeed. Miss Juanita, Alejandro, Richard, Keisha is in the house. Hey, Keisha. How you doing, honey child? Melvin, hey, look at you. Good morning. Marshall is here. Irvelyn, Pamela Francis. Miss Bonnie joining us, of course, from the beautiful district of East End. Miss Barbara is here. Sherry Ann, so good to see you. Morning to Stephanie Brooks. She says, good morning, my CMR family. Aliano Jared is laughing, talking about Cayman back, just got fiber. Don't be laughing now. They're happy about that. RD Limited says, perhaps they will one day have it available throughout the Eastern districts. Sigh. I don't know why it's so difficult to get it in the Eastern districts because, I mean, Kaibo has it. I think they went the other way and put it through Kaibo. But you see, there's a money, what isn't about money, right? But there is a money bit to it where I know that certain areas where they knew people would actually sign up and they'd have a take up on the service is kind of a lot of the people who got it first. So, the Kaibo area with these multi-million-dollar homes, they don't mind paying for fiber. So I think that they got it before the rest of like North Side and East End. But now Flo promised us a couple years ago that by last year, I think it was, there was going to be fiber throughout Grand Cayman everywhere. So we need delivery on that promise. So hopefully we'll have some good news for you guys, RD. We'll put the pressure on and see if we can get some good news on that front soon. Alejandro. Oh, Liana says fiber not. It's still slow. It shouldn't be. So let me tell y'all a little something about fiber. The conduit, the fiber, allows you to get speeds that you cannot get on a copper connection. So when you start getting into the 200 megabytes, half a terabyte, that's 500 megabytes, 300, and you can even get up to terabyte. I have a terabyte at home on the download. What I would say to you is you need to know how to check your speeds. And then there could be a lot of other things going on your network, why it's appearing to be slow. So if you're still complaining that it's slow even after you have fiber, you need to check your speeds, first of all, and then have a look at your network and see what's going on. There are times that something could be wrong with the fiber, because although fiber is a much faster conduit, right? It also happens to be it happens to be very delicate. So what you have happening with fiber, and I've seen this myself, believe me, people say, oh, I'm always getting buffering or this or that. And I said, you need to call Flow, because sometimes they literally have to come back out, pull your fiber back out because it might have gotten damaged in the installation or whatever. And, they get proper fiber back in. And this particular case, which is one of the more unusual ones that I've heard of, with this resident in West Bay, the fiber connection was fine for a while, and then things started to go haywire. And what had happened is there was the little hole that they pushed it through in the residence. I think they didn't caulk it properly, and so a little lizard was getting in there, and he actually started to bite on the fiber. And so it was the lizard's fault. He, bit into the fiber, and then they had a problem. So, if you have a bend in fiber, it'll interfere with the quality of what it is that you're getting. So if you have a fiber connection, Liana, and you are still trying to, or you're still having issues with speeds and buffering and that sort of thing, you need to call them because they need to do some troubleshooting for you. Miss Debbie DaCosta joining us from New Jersey. Good morning, beautiful Debbie. How are you? KK is saying that they still don't have it up in North Side, and so they need to get to moving and get all of North Side sorted out. Liana says whoever's in charge of the islands are not doing their job. In charge in terms of from the perspective of flow or politically, or you might want to clarify that. So yeah. So Alejandro's saying, what? We need to stop paying for BS, I swear, supporting these. Oh, Alejandro, the language this morning. You got that potty mouth, sir. Can do without internet or any communication, but I refuse to go without they lucky. Most people can't go without internet anymore. So I think everybody knows that. But who are you upset about? What who got under your skin, Alejandro? The language is, how to chill. It's nothing to get that out of sorts about. KK says nobody is ever there. That's been from the day I was born. Honestly, the most they would do is come in and change the flag. That's about it. Talking about the North Side station. Well, I got to be honest with you. They don't even be changing the flag, because the last complaint I got is that the flag had been at half mast and it was all torn up and looking tattered for the longest time, which is unfortunate because, our flag is a symbol of national pride and it should be respected. There are rules on how you handle a flag. And one thing you're not supposed to do is leave the flag up 24/7. So the flag goes up. We need some flag protocol lessons around here. And funny enough, we've actually done a story on this years ago about flag protocol, because a lot of people were either displaying the flag wrong, hanging it upside down, which is actually quite an insult, as well as not taking it down and, let me see here, all this sort of thing. And so we reached out at the time to the protocol office about how it is. This is back in 2018, how you handle a flag properly. Let me give you all this because we were getting complaints about Tortuga not flying it, Polar Bear not flying it properly. They had up the sea flag, which is not supposed to be the one that you have up. It was torn and tattered. Tortuga is always up and facing all sorts of weather. And so there's an entire area of law called the Coat of Arms, Flag, and National Song Law 2005 revision that talks about all the rules that govern flag handling, the coat of arms, and so on. So we got a whole list of things that you should not do with the flag. So it's not supposed to be flown at night unless it's illuminated. It can't be flown in inclemental harsh weather, although it can get wet from the rain, but you're not supposed to leave it out during storms and that sort of thing. Flying it in a worn or damaged condition or when soiled, allowing it to touch the ground, so the flag isn't supposed to touch the ground, drawing on it, decorating on it, flying it upside down, which is actually a sign of distress, shouldn't be done. But of course, we have people who do not know what the Cayman flag actually looks like, putting up the flag. Most instances, those individuals are not Caymanians. I must give our people a little bit of credit. They know which direction the flag is supposed to be flown. So on a couple of occasions, we have had people send us photos of our flag being upside down. And that's a sign of distress. And it's actually insulting to hang the flag upside down if you're not in distress and you're not asking for help. And you're also not supposed to use it for any other purpose other than a flag, which I know is a little bit of a situation because sometimes you have these, what are they called? We actually have some that we'd given away from the Barbados flag, Cayman, Jamaica, where you can use them like at sporting events and you put your hands through them and they're like a flag shirt or whatever. So, people who are very, very particular say that, well, you're not supposed to do that either. You're not supposed to use any part of it as a costume or athletic uniform, but you can use a flag patch, which can be affixed to different things like for fire officers, police officers, and so on. And I know people are supposed to get permission when they use it for other things, but there's a whole section on how to fly it, how it's supposed to be handled in a dignified manner, the flying of foreign flags. So the Cayman flag, so when a foreign flag is flown with the Cayman flag, right? It is the Cayman flag or the Union Jack that should be in the Union flag that should be in the superior position. They should not be, side by side. So, yeah. We're supposed to take our flag is supposed to take the position of honor. And I've seen instances again where people did not seem to know that. And they're flying other flags above the Cayman flag and all sorts of stuff. So what a hot mess. Leanna says that why the fire department took so long to respond and police officers were never there, too busy on staycations. Morning, Miss Carol. How are they on a staycation when they're supposed to be working, Leanna? That's a hot mess of a situation that we have a lot of questions about. I must be honest. Mm-hmm. So we don't know why the place burnt down. I have suspicions that those Northsiders are like, you know what? Y'all not coming to work anyway. What do we need this building for? But of course, that's a criminal offense. That's arson. So if you did that, you might find yourself in a bit of trouble. Everton says his fish are dying. What's going on with the fish? It could be the heat, Everton. I understand that the water temperature is like 101 and literally all sorts of fish are just dying. Are your fish inside in a proper tank that's being temperature controlled? Maybe there's an outbreak of something in the tank. Leanna says, thank you, because during COVID, there was a sign on the door said not available, must contact Georgetown. Lord have mercy, all the way to Georgetown? Wow. It's just a hot mess. Good morning, Miss Sue. Not even Bordentown. Contact Georgetown. Lord Jesus, they must be crazy. You could never have an emergency in Northside or East End and have to go all the way to Georgetown for it. What would be the purpose of having these other stations? Curtis says we still have to use cisterns, though. Good morning, Melvin. Barbara says, I'm in East End and I have fiber in. So I'm wondering, East End, what's going on North Side? Maybe North Side is like the last area then that they're working on. I'll try to get some details. So Nita says, if you call that station for help, they tell you to call Bordentown. I hope the government doesn't rebuild it. It's a waste of government funds. Wow. I hope the commissioner and the commissioner designate are listening this morning, because clearly they need to, do some CPR on the station there in Northside and give it a breath of fresh air, because no, sir. The people do not appear to be happy with what's going on there. Noli, good morning, says good morning. Cayman Brack has it, but it's not working properly. Like I said, thank you, El Ray. It's gigabytes. I'm always saying terabytes. But 1 gigabyte is still plenty speed. No average person will ever need a gigabyte. Believe me, you. But if you're having problem, Noel, you need to ensure that you get it sorted out. You call them and you troubleshoot exactly what's going on. Because like I said, it can be very, very simple. Something as simple as the fiber is damaged and just needs to be replaced. Even if it's a new installation, believe me, it happens. KK says, give me my Digicel modem and I'm good. Ooh, honey child. Here's the problem with that Digicel modem. Number one, it's not unlimited. So for the world of me, I do not understand how anybody can have home internet and it's limited to 500, 500 gig for the month? I probably go through 500 gig in a week, much less a month. So that doesn't make any sense to me. And nobody in their right minds would be paying the equivalent sometimes of what you can get unlimited high fiber for. And then somebody tells you, no, after 500 gig, you've run out and you have to wait until the next month, or you have to top up extra. For home internet users, that don't make no sense. I'm sorry. I could not support that at all. Good morning, King. Says morning. For some reason, when we had those old school broadband, the speeds are smoother and faster feeling. Now with fiber and 5G, we have things buffering and such lagging in games. I think your expectations have probably changed, King. I cannot tell you that my experience has been that at all, because listen, when you know, you know. We literally got fiber from Flow with the same week that we went into lockdown. I mean, days before into COVID lockdown, we got the fiber connection, and it was a game changer for us around here. I probably would have found COVID to be unbearable if we didn't have that, because we have 50, 60 connected devices. It's a lot, believe me, you. Everything from phones to cameras to multiple computers, a server room, this, that, the next thing, smart devices. And so we're very, very high-end users for the internet, as well as for electricity, obviously. And so I noticed, we were having issues before fiber, believe me, you. But once we got fiber, that was a game changer, honey child. I was like, oh, praise the Lord. The silver lining to COVID is at least I had fiber at home and I could sit down and watch a movie without any buffering. So I haven't had that. Obviously, King, you're in the UK. So I don't know if you're speaking about your UK experience over there, but there could be different things that are happening on a network why you might be having those types of experiences. And you know what is so funny? Listen, I tell people this. I don't knock our local providers as much as maybe people think I should, because a lot of times when you use them as a point of reference to other places in the world, y'all don't have no clue how fortunate you actually are. And when I say other places in the world, I'm not talking about third world. I'm talking about the good old United States of America. When I go and visit their cousins in Fort Lauderdale, oh, that's when I'm pained for the internet that they have. I'm like, what kind of jacked up internet is this? You know, $1 million home and the internet sucks. And the internet is like slow and painful and, it can't reach one side of the house. And I'm like, what? Are we doing better than this in little Cayman Islands? No, sir. Oh my gosh. When I'm there, it's like, is there a way for me to get better internet? Perez, good morning, chef, joining us from Costa Rica. Hey. So good to see you. Good morning, Nathina. How are you? I tell you what, perspective and understanding what happens elsewhere in the world is a real game changer. It's one of the reasons I keep telling Caymanians, don't just go to vacation in Miami. Travel and live somewhere else first, right? And then you would be surprised at how incredibly amazing this little rock is, considering how small we are. When you consider that we have a population of 75,000 people, we're not doing too bad. Yes, there's always room for improvement, but my goodness, there are people who have more resources and supposedly and all sorts of other things, and they are, honey chow, they are lacking a lot. Over the weekend, we have some guests visiting us from Florida, and then my husband had some colleagues come down from Canada. And when I sit down and listen to them, even yesterday we went to brunch, and they were talking about they kind of jokingly said they've got 19-year-old twins, and they jokingly said, oh, they'll be at least 40 before they can move out because they can't afford to buy anything in Canada. And listen, they're not even directly in Toronto. They're like outside of Toronto in a small town. And, hold on, let me plug this back in so we can answer this call properly. And they were saying that, good morning, caller. Welcome to the program. Hello? You might have to call back because I had to unplug and replug the phone back in. Call me back. So they were saying that, it's so crazy because even though they're not in the big city, the cost of everything, double-digit inflation, interest rates, like their kids legitimately will not be able to afford a home. That it's a joke, but it's not really a joke because it's the truth. Good morning, caller. Welcome to the program.
Good morning, ma'am. How you doing?
Not bad. How are you?
Okay. I just saw where someone said that the fiber in Cayman Black is not working good now.
That's what somebody claiming. I know that can't be true.
Yeah. I used to get 10 megs before. I got the fiber now, and I just did a speed test. I actually sent it to you to show you I'm getting 312 now. So I don't know who's not working on the Black, but ours is working. Well, mine is working.
Yeah. No, like I said, different things might be causing that. And so, of course, they need to reach out to Flow and have a troubleshoot because, there's no reason why it shouldn't be working because, fiber is a much better conduit in a way. Although it is a little bit softer than copper. So you can have those types of issues.
You may be wondering why but we still have to use cisterns.
Yeah, I remember the conversation.
Somebody was talking about bigger fiber in the Black now. I say, yeah, but we still have to use cistern because we don't go water all the way. Did you ever check on that for me? Because somebody had a problem over the weekend again.
Let me see now. I think I messaged. Let me double check. Yes. The person, I'm going to send this to you because the person said she was actually off island and she was asking me to reach out to corporate communications with the question. So let me follow up on that now that you mention it.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah. All right, darling. No problem.
All right. Take care.
Okay. Thanks too. Yes. Sometimes I must admit, falling down in the job over here, the job of helping y'all. And boy, do we get some. I got to tell y'all one of the most bizarre requests I recently got. So yeah, give them a call. There might be something else that's going on. Morning to Andrea. Good morning, Evelyn. Miss Morna says she's good with C3. Alejandro. So will things become cheaper in Cayman Islands if we have population growth? I don't necessarily know that will be the solution, because like I'm telling you, they're not cheaper in Canada right now. Small towns who have a significant higher population than us are having a lot of the same problems. You know, the most of our problems are nothing unique to Cayman, and I know that we think that it is. And this is one of the things that I really, really want to educate people about. So listen to one of the stories that they told me. I love listening to people from overseas talk about their life, because even if I've never lived in Canada, it certainly gives me an interesting perspective from people who do live there, Canadian citizens. So they were saying that they have this death benefit. Listen to this. This is like super weird, but this is, hold on. I was taking a note about this because I thought, oh, I need to write that down, honey chill. So apparently you can apply to kill yourself. It's assisted suicide. Let me see if I can look up the proper term. So you can apply to have this done. Oh yes, it's called MAID, Canada's Medical Assistance in Dying Law. MAID, MAID. So they were saying that you can apply for MAID, which is, you know, if you have certain illnesses, you can basically have the option to tap out when you feel like it, right? But I guess there's a process to do it. So in February of 2015, the Supreme Court of Canada ruled in a case called Carter v. Canada that parts of the criminal code would need to change to satisfy the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. And the parts that prohibited medical assistance in dying would no longer be valid. So the Supreme Court gave the government until June the 6th of 2016 to create a new law, which they did. So the Parliament of Canada in June of 2016 passed the federal legislation that allows eligible Canadians, adults, to request medical assistance in dying. So on October the 5th of 2020, the Minister of Justice and Attorney General of Canada introduced the former C7 bill, and now it's called MAID. So this is Medical Assistance in Dying Law, okay? So I guess there are requirements, obviously, for you to apply. So this introduced proposed changes to Canada's law on medical assistance in dying. It was introduced in response to the Superior Court of Quebec's 2019 decision, which it found that reasonable foreseeability of natural death eligibility criteria in the criminal code, as well as the end-of-life criterion from Quebec's Act respecting end-of-life care, to be unconstitutional. All right. So the changes were also informed by Canada's experience with MAID, feedback from over 300,000 Canadians, experts, practitioners, stakeholders, provinces, territories, etc. And so now they have this MAID law in place. So there is eligibility requirements that you have to meet for MAID, and there's a process of assessment. So they have a friend or an acquaintance or lady who is I think she actually has a whole social media page, because they were saying how she's like one of her social media, I'll have to try and get her name, but one of her social media posts was talking about her experiences with MAID. So she applied for MAID, this medical assistance in dying, got approved for that so that she can tap out, right? Euthanasia at her choice. But the services, she's a quadriplegic, the services that she needs to live, right? Care, quality, medical services. She applied for those through the Canadian government In years later, she's not yet been approved for those, but she's been approved to basically take her own life. And they were like, how does that make any sense at all? So if she wants to live, she requires certain things, right? And she's relying on the Canadian government to provide that assistance to her. That application years later is still pending. But the application to tap out of this life, medically assisted euthanasia will help you kill yourself, basically, has been approved. And they're just like, the system here, like everybody else around the world, everybody's saying that it's crazy. I was like, wow. Let me take some notes, honey child, because this does sound really, really interesting. Huh. I'm going to get her name because I think her story is one that demonstrates, some of the difficulties that people are facing, not just on this little rock, but all over the world. And, the crazy thing is, in Canada, they pay so much in taxes. This guy is saying 53% of his income goes to taxes. And when they look at everything else, property tax, which, by the way, is paid monthly in Canada, plus they've got a sales tax when you sell property, plus you've got, provincial tax, at the federal level, like you're being taxed out the wazoo. And he said, essentially, for the average Canadian, your money that you earn, when you calculate all these different taxes that you pay, 70% of your money goes to taxes. What? Say who? I was like, yeah. Kind of crazy. And it's not like they have the best quality. I mean, they're still complaining. Medical stuff. They were saying, Sandy, do you know how long it takes to get a medical appointment in Canada? If you want to go to the doctor, if you want to have surgery, the wait is like a year for certain types of services or more, 12 to 18 months. And they're like, how long does it take you to get in? If you got to go see the cardiologist, you've got an appointment. And I'm like, shall I just pick up the phone and within a couple of days I'm there? And if it's not a service that's available here in the Cayman Islands, we're able to get a referral and go overseas probably within a week. I'm thinking, damn, we got it good over here. Why y'all think there's so many Canadians here? Do you think that that's like just a mistake? No, they're here because they're sick and tired of being taxed for every single thing and still not getting the best possible service. Garrett says the cost of living has been has really increasing in the UK as well. Listen, I see a lot of Caymanians. Oh, we want to go move to the UK. And I said, honey, child, please do so. I will help you buy the ticket for you and your family to move for the UK. But here's the caveat. You got to move for 5 years. You cannot come back under any circumstances to the Cayman Islands. Well, I guess a visit, but you can't come back to live at least for 5 years. And then I want you to come back and tell us what your experience really is. Yes, some things might be cheaper depending on where in the UK you live. If you live in London, you're not going to be any cheaper than Cayman. Right? Housing definitely is not going to be any cheaper. But if you live in Leeds and some other places, yep, you got shopping options, whatever. Yes, I get that. But y'all are going to be really, really surprised. The jobs that you keep talking about here in the Cayman Islands, you can't find the job. Well, go over there and compete with the millions of people. And guess what? Being a Caymanian isn't going to help you in any way, shape, or form. I'm just saying. You can be a Caymanian all you want. They're going to be like, oh, you think you're going to be getting that work permit here? You're going to be competing based on merit and maybe other things. Who you know. And since you don't know nobody, you won't be getting any preferential treatment or going anywhere in a hurry. But I think that people should have that experience because not only does it allow you to have, I think, a much more realistic expectation and balanced perspective, right? But, maybe you come up with some out of the box solutions and what we can and can't do here, because I find that it's often the way in which, people are proposing solutions, and those solutions don't work anywhere else. Even district councils, I was thinking about this the other day. Everybody's like, oh, district council, they have district councils in Jamaica and the consulates and stuff like that, and district councils. And honey child, they don't work. They do not work. Just having a district council, that's not going to be the panacea to all of our problems. That's not going to be like, oh, the Holy Grail. No. So it was interesting listening to them. I really, really enjoyed our conversation and hearing them talk about some of the struggles that they have, from housing to their tax system, just the cost of living. They were talking about how the government has brought in from Syria some, trying to do a good thing, supposedly. They brought in some migrants from Syria, set them up. Again, these people have low education, set them up in certain jobs. And then all of a sudden, because of inflation and the cost of housing, these people who are making minimum wage, they can't afford any of that. So now they're finding them homeless under bridges and whatever in Canada. Migrants that the government brought in to say, oh, we're going to try to help the people of Syria by bringing in some of these refugees. Now the refugees are out there homeless on the streets. What a mess. Someone else was talking about, again, El Race's perspective is a hell of a thing. It sure is. Someone was talking about the other Caribbean countries. And so, is it Barbados that just had, they introduced their minimum wage at $16. It increased to $16 and change US. I think it was them. Hold on. Let me just double check her website, the CMR website. I believe that was Barbados. And everybody's like, oh my God, Cayman needs to do $16 an hour, blah, blah, blah. So this person said to his Bayesian counterparts, what do you guys pay your helpers? Because the minimum wage, and this is the irony of it, right? I know people who are advocating for an increase in minimum wage, not because they're in that bracket, but because they're on the bandwagon. If everybody says we need to, is Bermuda or Barbados? Which one was it? No, Bermuda. My apologies. That was not Barbados. I always get these B islands mixed up. Bermuda implements a $16.40 minimum wage, right? Implements that. That was just June last month. So this person was saying to someone from Bermuda, well, how does this work for your domestic workers, your helpers? And they were like, who? Because in Cayman, and again, I see this, people are like, oh yeah, we need to increase the minimum wage because of cost of living. Those people don't make minimum wage, Nina. In this country, my suspicion is the vast majority of people impacted by the minimum wage are not even Caymanians, it's foreign nationals. Stick a pin, because everybody needs to be making a livable wage, whether you're Caymanian or not. But the one area that it will impact Caymanians is with domestic workers. How many of y'all are prepared to pay domestic workers $16 an hour? I know Caymanian families right now who are complaining that they can't pay domestic workers $6 an hour, and they expect them to work around the clock and handle a bag of children, all 4 or 5 children, sometimes children with special needs and all sorts of stuff. So the very people who are saying we need to increase minimum wage are the very people who will be negatively impacted by the minimum wage, because as employers, they will have to pay their domestic workers whatever that minimum wage increase is. Y'all not thinking about it, but it's coming down the pipeline. And what does that mean for you? How many of you can afford to pay even more right now for your domestic care? I'm going to wait. I'm hearing crickets. Raise your hands for those of you who are going to be happy to pay $10 an hour for a helper to take care of your children. Okay. So the person who was sharing this story yesterday, Caymanian, professional, said his Bermuda counterpart was like, what are domestic workers? We don't have domestic workers like that. And he's like, oh, you don't? No. That seems to be a thing that is uniquely Caymanian for us to have helpers in your home. The person in Bermuda said, well, aren't you guys lucky? We have grandparents who now have to all live together in a household in order to make ends meet. Aunts and uncles, they're still helping. And the government there has a system where I think it's from 7 in the morning until 5:30. They have schools that are open during those hours, and you can just leave your children in the care of these schools. And you pay a little fee of like $50 or $100 or whatever to extend that option. And what do you do during the summer? I don't know what you do in Bermuda. Paul, can you share that with us? Call in, Paul. I'd love to hear your perspective on this, because again, it's one of those things, as we just said, perspective is a hell of a thing. Knowledge, information is a hell of a thing. Paul, you can call me and what's up, because I would like to know. I'm curious. How does this work? Even in terms of someone, I think it was Everything 345 posted a couple of days ago. Oh, why is it that Cayman has the highest kilowatt usage? Not forget about the actual dollar amount of the bill, but this was like, oh, we use 700. Let me see what the average household is. But they had it up like, oh, we have, the highest kilowatt usage or whatever for the Caribbean. And I said, are we still questioning this? Like, y'all don't know? It's because, let me see if I can find everything. How do they spell? Oh, they don't have a G on the end. Folks, it is because we are spoiled here in the Cayman Islands and enjoy certain luxuries that they do not elsewhere in the world, or elsewhere in the region, I should say, because we have the highest in the region. So we have the highest in the region because we're burning AC 24/7. And so, I hate to tell y'all, but that costs money. That is your biggest usage is air conditioning. Other places in the world, they've got mountains, or in the Caribbean, they might have mountainous terrain. They just used to the heat. They're not spending that kind of money. Open the windows, whatever. They don't have all these appliances drawing down on your power. Good morning, caller. Welcome to the program.
Hey, good morning, Sandy. I don't think that we should sit here and say that it doesn't make sense to increase the minimum wage. Let's think about it.
No, I'm not saying that it doesn't make sense. What I'm saying is people need to be realistic about the fallout of that. And I'm asking people who are in the domestic area, which accounts for a lot of the work permits on this island, the employers of those people, how many of them are willing to pay $10, $15, $20 or whatever it's going to be for a domestic worker?
Oh, because I think you say, well, you can't afford a domestic helper, but
they might not be able to with the increase. So people need to start thinking about that. So, right, I mean, that'll be on them to figure out.
But then there's other bills that is increasing all the time, and that people, not everybody in the island has a domestic helper. So we can't say that what will happen then for us that, or some of us that have domestic helpers.
Well, I can tell you that the point that I'm trying to make is that even the concept of having a domestic helper in the Caribbean seems to be something that is largely Caymanian. So in Bermuda, what this person told the Caymanian guy is, he said, you know what? He said in Bermuda, it's like the 5%, the top 5% earning, the rich people, in other words, they're the ones with nannies and domestic helpers. The average person in Bermuda does not have a domestic helper.
And I quite agree. I quite agree with that. Even here in the UK, you know how people say they domestic, you have a cleaner come in once a week or whatever the case, if you do need. But I thought you meant like don't advocate for increase, because then
no, I mean, I just want people to be prepared. What will be the reality if we get an increase? So, as employers of domestic workers, you're going to be paying more for that.
What doing now, you're continue to do, and that's abuse people by not paying them decent salary.
And is that going to be any better than, is that what we want? I mean, obviously not. There's going to be some enforcement.
it is common day slavery for how some people could get away with, paying a person a minimum wage, and they're taking care of the whole
Yeah.
income of,
So
of
is it
children.
going to
That
get
is
worse
wrong.
now, you think, when the minimum wage is increased? Are those abuses
Well,
going to
the
get
thing is
worse?
about the thing is about it, like I always say, immigration needs to put education out there for people to know what the laws is, maybe even public services to say, you don't work for that kind of money,
Mm.
but then again, we got people that come in from
They're
all
so
over that
desperate.
will sit down and, yeah, desperately thing, but it has to have a standard, because if you got a certain standard of living, you can't expect to just pay people what you feel like paying. It needs to be a threshold to for people to have decent salary.
Hmm.
So that may change some of them parents that want to be out all hours and days and night, and then the nanny is home with the kids for 24/7, and giving them that minimum wage.
Hmm.
So I just think that people need to, I mean, government needs to put in place something
Yeah.
to let
And
people
and
know
and
that you're
listen,
going to
if you're
work
a
for X.
small business owner,
Yeah,
we do have another call in the line. I'm going to have join in here, but if you're a
yeah,
small
that's fine.
business owner, right, and you're now having to again increase your expenditure, which includes paying your staff, how are you going to absorb that cost of an increased minimum wage? You don't think that means that your goods and
Oh
services
dear.
are going to go up?
Well, we goods and services are higher than most should be anyway. But I mean, that'll give them another good excuse to go through the roof with the prices. That's why things need to be put in place. Government need to put things in place, caps on certain items, I think, at least,
Mm.
so that the it wouldn't be, such a high cost to the person's living.
Hmm.
Other than that, they're gonna just use people and abuse people for
Mm.
people that are desperate. So that's what government need to start to at least try to get something in place so that these people can, because you know what happens too. They come, they say, okay, we'll give you 1,000. I mean, some of them poor people is working for half of that amount.
Hmm.
So whatever is promised on that application for permit needs to be paid. That is the whole thing. Anyway, Sandy, thank you.
All right, my dear. Thanks very much. All right. Morning caller. Welcome to the program.
Morning, Sandy. How are you?
Not bad. How you doing?
Thank you. I just wanted to say I have a tremendous amount of respect for that previous caller.
Mm-hmm.
Always insightful. But again, I'm with you on this one. And I myself have a domestic helper, and I am not in the lowest earning bracket at all. I'm a professional employee, and I think I make a reasonably good living. However, expenses are also high. And not because of reckless or irresponsible spending. It's just the world we live in, particularly here in Cayman. But I want to, like you, and I actually had to point this out to my helper, and I would say I'm more than slightly above minimum wage. But I assure you, if the current minimum wage moves $1, that domestic helper quickly becomes something that is out of reach for not just me, because there are people who are earning far less than I am, who are having to make the sacrifice because they need a domestic helper. And while I do believe it's a luxury, for some people that is the only option to get a domestic helper. And it's not that we want to have a helper sitting there in our house looking at the walls or whatever while our children are at school. But in reality, it's very difficult, first of all, to get one who's willing to work from 2 to 5 or 2 to 6. It's very difficult and it's not sustainable, because you're going to want to pay what minimum wage is, which is, it's difficult at best. Then you're going to want to have that person come in when your child is sick, when they've probably gone out there and hustled out of work to keep their head above water. It's just unrealistic. But for me, the most important thing, and I had to have the conversation with my own helper to say, listen, it's not that I don't think that people shouldn't be paid a living wage. I actually think we need to do away with minimum wage and get a living wage. But who is to determine what that is? I myself have been looking into this minimum wage for quite some time, and it tends to be the people in education is a hell of a thing. It tends to be the people who are on minimum wage who are banging on about increase the minimum wage. And let me tell you, you could increase the minimum wage to $100 an hour. It'll still do nothing for the people who are earning minimum wage. The problem that you had before will continue to exist. Matter of fact, it will exacerbate itself because guess what? The cashier is going to also need minimum wage. The gas pump is going to also need minimum wage. The gardener, minimum wage. And all of those things might seem like very insignificant until you realize those are almost all essential services. Like, who's going to check out your groceries at the grocery store? And guess what? Businesses are in business to make a profit, not for charity.
Exactly.
Not for charity.
Yep.
Not
and what do you think about this concept of having government tell you as a business owner what to charge for services and fees? Somebody just said to me,
trickle down effect.
Yeah, well, someone just said, good morning. I'm struggling to follow your caller's logic. She seems to be advocating an increase in minimum wage, but then is concerned that it will lead to prices of goods and services being increased. Also, about caps, what caps does she advocate? CIG already has caps on prices of professional medical fees. So what's next? And I mean, those physicians tell you that they've not had, by the way, that professional fee cap has been in place since 2002. So the medical profession, although we might argue that because obviously they're professionals, to have a cap in place since 2002, that's what, 20 something years ago? Is that fair to them?
And this is it. But then when we go to the doctors as patients and we are paying, in our minds, we say, well, how much is it? Just as an example, to have this tooth extracted, and they say $100. We're expecting that we're going to pay $20, and in some cases we leave there paying $60. But what they're not explaining to us, and quite frankly shouldn't have, so the physician that is, or the service provider, is that, listen, we are only being compensated at a rate of $60. So we're only able to claim back to the insurance 80% of $60. Not 80% of the actual service, 80% of the government indicated price of that particular service. So everybody is getting shafted when it comes to insurance. That is a whole other realm of ridiculous, if you ask me. Right? But for me, the minimum wage, and I had spoken to people when the minimum wage had increased who were also minimum wage workers, and one in particular was a security guard at the airport, and he said to be quite frank, minimum wage did nothing for them either because they were already earning $6 an hour, so they benefited nothing, and that is another thing. So if the minimum wage goes to $8 an hour, I will use domestic helpers because I think that is going to be the most impacted job. If that goes to $8 an hour, there are already helpers who are earning $8 an hour. Those who are earning $10 an hour.
And this is where I'm concerned that, when I ask the question, I think the minimum wage advisory committee is coming back on the program maybe this week. But when I ask the question, who is making $6 an hour? What does that person look like? They can't really say. They don't know. It's more like anecdotal, like, oh yeah, we think, we know it's mostly expat. Like, we need to have that information concrete. That's why ESO is there. That's why we need that data, because, if it's 90% of expat workers who are making minimum wage and they fall into these categories of employment, increase in the minimum wage for those individuals helps Cayman. How exactly? You might have a counterproductive thing happening because of the increase in the minimum wage.
But this is what I've always said, and this is not me in any way saying, oh, well, they come here to work and they should spend all of their money here. That's not what I'm saying.
Yes.
Despite the current minimum wage, and I say no, because it's relatively high in most cases from where these people are coming from. What they earn here in a week, they would earn there in a month.
Yeah.
That's not a knock at anybody, or me saying that, oh, well, people should come here and be mistreated or ill-treated or worked for less than. That's not what I'm saying at all. But when people come here knowing that the cost of living is ridiculously high. They come to me knowing what the minimum wage is. And then we are meant to bend over backwards so that they can repatriate more money, that they can take more money out of the Caymanian economy, because that's exactly what that translates into. And then they look at people like me and say, well, what do you expect them to do? Well, if you come here and you know that we drive on the left, don't come here and pick up a stink about you want to drive on the right. Go somewhere that drives on the right. Go somewhere that drives on the right. But I don't think, personally for me, having a helper is not a luxury. It is a necessity. I cannot go to work if I don't
and let me be very clear. The point that I was trying to make when I was talking about the comparison of Cayman versus Bermuda, and I have one of their MPs who might jump on the conversation this morning, is that in Bermuda, it is considered a luxury. In Cayman, it is not. You know, the average person requires a helper. And so the average person now will also be impacted by the increase in the minimum wage. And that's a serious factor that I think people need to consider.
Well, I spoke to a friend who is a Jamaican economist, and he was just saying to me how unrealistic, and he actually said, and just so you know, that's not unique to Cayman. It's more of a Western Caribbean thing, but
well, here's let me join on a caller here, and then I'm gonna read this comment. So Al says that no employee should suffer because you can't afford to take care of your household. Sanita says Caymanians need to utilize grandparents and cut out domestic helpers. So are you able to utilize grandparents, caller?
Okay, so in my case, both my parents, my mother is 56. My dad is 63. Both are still working. Both still work.
Yep. And I mean, excuse me, but you know, I don't have that option either. I mean, one is in her 80s, and why should I burden, even if I could, why should I burden an 80-something-year-old woman to look after my child? Like, that's not like, I personally don't believe that your parents are there to raise your children after they've raised an entire generation. Do they not get a break at some point? Some people in their 70s and 80s already have dementia, and they're struggling with just managing their own lives. So why are we putting this burden on elderly people?
They've raised you, now they must come behind and
raise your children too.
It's simply ridiculous. I have a very particular stance on grandparents. I believe that they are, they are weekend people. They see them, they spoil the crap out of them and send them into their parents. That's not saying that, that if you're in dire need, that, that it should be an exceptional circumstance. I personally feel that my parents have raised me and my siblings. It is time for us to raise our kids. They didn't send us out there to go home. They didn't send us out there to go, and nobody considers that. They just somehow say, I need help and you have to help. No, my dad said there's only two things you gotta do. That's die and stay black. And in some cases, you don't even gotta stay black no more. So you got relegated to die.
Oh, the bleaching cream and cake soap is strong. Leave me there, caller. We do have another caller on the line.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate those comments. Caller, good morning and welcome. Oh, hold on. Do we have? Okay. So caller, good morning and welcome to the program.
Hello, good morning.
Okay, let me see now. We've got two callers. So 1654, you're up first.
Yes, good morning, ma'am.
Yes, good morning.
I don't know what you made that woman hang up for. I was enjoying her imagery, and that's all I called to say.
Okay.
Oh gosh. And her analogies are spot on. We drive on the left here, they'll come with the crap will drive on the right.
Okay.
And the government, I hope the premier is listening this morning. Oh, that was painless, simple. Simple and efficient. Right there. A bag, a reinforcement. Oh my gosh. Caller, please call back. I'm listening intently. Thank you. Bye.
Okay, next caller. Good morning.
Morning.
Hi
I'm gonna be the unpopular opinion here.
Okay.
Probably. take some heat for that, but I think similarly to what the caller was saying, that, you know, domestic helpers come here, they know how much they're making, X, Y, and Z. Well, at the same time, we live here, we know how expensive it is. So if we can't afford to have kids, quote unquote, which we often love to say that about people, right? If you can't afford to have kids, why are you having kids? I think domestic helper and also a domestic helper and a nanny should be differentiated. So if you have a nanny taking care of your kids and that's all they're doing and they're not cleaning and cooking and etc., perhaps $6 is worth it. But if you like what the first caller was saying about modern day slavery, when you have someone cleaning your house all day, cooking for a family of 4 or 5 and taking care of the children, I think that is modern day slavery, and I feel like it is a luxury to have that. And also have another question. In Cayman, I don't know if you know about this daycare over there. It's like a preschool, but they call it daycare. And I don't know about recently, but up until I can remember, the fee there was like, you pay like $300 for the month. And it's a government-run daycare system. So perhaps maybe that's the solution. And then once the kids are school age.
Well, let me put this to you, caller. All daycare centers in the Cayman Islands, preschools, have a waiting list. Even NCVO, I now understand, has an extensive waiting list. So that's people who have children, people who have children who can't wait 6 months because you got to go to work. You can't tell your employer, oh, give me 6 months until there's an opening at my local daycare center, and then I can come back to work. What are those people going to do?
Well, they need to hire a nanny.
Well,
not a domestic helper.
But let me be very clear about this, because I think this is almost like the gratuities and tips conversation. There are people who use the term nanny and domestic helper interchangeably, and they don't know what the difference is, right? And people who don't differentiate between them. I find that our expat counterparts tend to prefer the term nanny because it doesn't have the same ring to it. It makes people feel more special, I guess, to be called a nanny as opposed to a domestic helper. I know in your mind, you have actually distinguished between the two. Most Caymanians don't see a difference. Most Caymanians are like, okay, if I hire you as a domestic worker, you're to come in my house, help with, cleaning and cooking and potentially looking after children as well. Because as a domestic, if you're working in your home as a mother, those are all the things you do and then some. So if you're not there and you need someone to kind of replace you in your absence, that person's expected to pick up as much of that load, just like you would if you were a stay-at-home mom.
I agree, but so I think is not enough for that.
Yeah, I mean,
that's
listen,
my opinion, my unpopular opinion.
Yeah, I mean, there will be people who undoubtedly will say, yes, that's the case. And you have people who oftentimes will sit down and they're like, okay, well, I'm not going to do very much. I'm going to kind of just, watch your children. And they're not even giving you $6 of value when you look at what it is that they're actually doing. But these are some of the things that we, I think, as a community are definitely struggling with and we need to address. I don't call the person who works for me, I don't even call her a domestic worker, although, for immigration purposes, that's what she is. But I call her house manager because she does things to help me manage the household that, my life would be so much more challenging if she wasn't here.
And I have one more statement before I go. Also on the flip side of it too, I heard something about, ESO. Well, in the last census, and this is where I will give a knock at the domestic helpers. In the last census, a lot of people did not want to answer the questions. They didn't want to tell people how much money they were making or where they were working, et cetera, et cetera. But then you expect the government to solve all your problems when they don't have the correct data.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a bunch of issues with it. But personally, I think $6 is not livable.
Well, what do you think
Whether
it should
it's
be?
fair or not, I don't know.
Yeah. What do you think it should be?
Yeah, I don't know because I've never been in that situation
Right.
Like I've never made that little amount of money, but I know with the amount that I am making, it's hard enough. So I can imagine. So I don't know what the livable wage is, but I don't think it's $6.
Right. And do you, let me ask you a question in terms of, your qualifications. Do you have something outside of a high school diploma?
Yep, I do. Sure do.
And you have years of work experience?
Yep.
So those are some of the things that when we have a conversation about someone increasing their earning power, I'm always surprised at why we never have the conversation about how the individual has an obligation to do more to increase their earning power. You don't have to stay a domestic worker. You can go out there and get certifications and degrees and other things that increase your value.
True.
I see and know a lot of domestic workers who can't even read and write. And there are people who are leaving their children with them, hoping that they don't ever have to read something on a medication bottle and get it wrong, or whatever else that could potentially even put their child's lives in danger. Because again, you're at the bottom of the barrel and you're just hiring any and everybody. Sometimes they're mixing dangerous chemicals together, ammonia and bleach, and about to blow up your house because they don't even understand the dangers of that. But your argument is they're worth more than $6 an hour?
Well, I don't know. That's just
you see how you can look at it from a slightly different perspective.
But then, how do you differentiate? Like, how do you say, okay?
Well, I mean,
do you say, okay, if you can't read or write, then you make $6 an hour?
Well, I'm just saying the people who are making.
How would you differentiate between those?
I think what needs to happen is that people who find themselves in that at the bottom of the minimum wage barrel, or that's where they are. They have to think about what they can do to increase their earning power. You don't just increase your earning power. And I think this is the issue with minimum wage. The government will dictate that everybody is now going to get, I don't know what they're going to increase it to, but say it's $9 an hour. The government will dictate that. Individuals get used to this concept that, I don't have to ever do anything to increase my earning power. As a business owner, I have to do things every single day to increase my earning power. It just doesn't happen because I want it to happen.
And I agree with that too, but it's not that simple. Like if you're working X amount of hours in the day, like take for instance a domestic helper, right?
And listen, even if they changed it, let's be fair, even if they changed it to $25 an hour, right? That person will always be a minimum wage earner. Because again, they've not done anything themselves to increase their earning power. So people will only ever pay them what the minimum wage is. As a previous caller said, you'll find people not even do that. People will take advantage of them. And a lot of them, knowing that they have, they don't have that option, they're going to be like, well, I'm going to come here just like they do now. Somebody's going to take out a work permit for me who can't even afford to pay me a single dollar. And then I must go out in the streets of Cayman and hustle, selling illegal numbers, prostituting my body, because that's some of what's going on in this country, and all of these other things in order to make money.
Yeah,
that's already happening now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, I agree with a lot of what you're saying, and I don't know what the solutions are. But take, for instance, like a domestic helper, right? One of the ways they can increase their earning power, like what you said, is to get a driver's license, right? A lot of times people will pay you more if you have a driver's license, if you can pick up the kids, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. But now, going back to your original point, does that person now become
learn how to drive?
Yeah. Well, does that person now become a nanny because they can pick people up? Going back to your original point of what's a nanny versus a domestic helper or whatever, there's also that question. Yeah. So it's interesting, but in other places in the world, like nannies and what do they call them, au pairs or whatever in Europe, they actually are qualified individuals. They have they have
first aid training and all that.
Yes. Yeah. And so that's what I'm saying is we have people here who are calling themselves nannies and don't have any of that. So, people just...
It's both ways. You have people that are overqualified, and then you also have people that are underqualified. There's a big mix.
Yeah.
Anyways, it's an interesting conversation.
No, it is.
And
Thank you so
for
much.
bringing it up, because it definitely needs to be argued from both sides.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for your contributions. Appreciate it.
Right.
All right. We've got another caller. Caller, good morning and welcome to the program.
Me again. I'm back.
Oh, okay. Listen, quick question, quick comment. Miss Morna says, so Alejandro says, what do you mean some of them? It is love taking care of children, Sandra. I know of some of my elders that do that. Miss Morna says, who? She says, grandparents. Hello, I'm trying to find the back door now. I mean, Alejandro, if they want to do that, I guess that's an option for them. My point is, we shouldn't be forcing that on them to make them feel like it's an obligation, because it's not an obligation. When you hit the grandparent time, you should be out there trying to live your best life, vacationing if you can afford it. You should do whatever you want. And if you don't want to take care of your grandchildren and raise yet a second generation, then you don't have to do that. Like, it's not an obligation. That's what I'm saying. They shouldn't feel obligated to do that. And in fact, I want to say that it's in the US that I recently read an article about this pandemic of grandparents being, forced to raise their grandchildren, and the negative deterioration that it's, here it is, a March 2023 article. The AARP, which is the Association for Retired People, talked about when grandparents are called to parent again. Right? And it's not, even helpguide.org, it's not always something that is in the best interest of the grandparents. It makes their life shorter. So there's an article in The Guardian from 2018, says 1 out of every 3 generations, or grandparents, sorry, that's over 35%, living with grandchildren has sole responsibility for them. That's according to their recent census. And, it's not something that they necessarily want to do. They got arthritis in their fingers and their hands, and they having to comb your children nappy hair. Come on now. I'm just saying, give grandparents a break.
But to add to that conversation, this is assuming that these grandparents aren't themselves still working.
Well, that too.
And in a lot of instances,
or that they're in a position to do it.
They are. In a lot of instances, they are still working to support their household. Still work.
Yeah. So here we go. Here's some facts out of the US. And again, this is why the ESO has such an important role, I think, to play in this country. We need more data collection, because having these conversations with data from elsewhere can be helpful. But if we had Cayman data to rely upon, what an amazing thing that would be. So in the United States of America, slightly more than 7 million grandparents lived with at least one grandchild under the age of 18 in the same household during 2020. 1 in 10 American children, which is a total of 7.5 million children, were living in a household with at least one grandparent. And they talked about, family settings may range from multiple generations sharing a home together to a widowed grandmother raising a granddaughter. In particular, however, 2.5 million grandparents carried the primary responsibility of caring for their grandchildren and meeting their basic needs, representing nearly 35% of grandparents who reside with a grandchild. And that was data from the 2019 American Community Survey. They're now calling them, these families headed up by a grandparent, often are called grand families, and they're common among families in which a relative has taken over primary responsibility for the raising of a child from the parents, known as kinship care. Relative caregivers, such as grandparents or adult relatives in a family who've taken it on, and then they go into some additional details about the reasons why. Most of the reasons why are the sort of things that we do not want to promote in this community, right? Potential reasons why. The number one reason is a parent has an addiction or difficulty with alcohol and drugs. That's why grandparents are having to step up to the plate in the vast majority of these cases. Who wants that, right? So grandparents are not doing it because they really want to be spending all this time with your kids. Trust me, they have better things that they'd probably rather be doing. Another reason, the parent has mental health challenges or emotional problems. Again, not much of a choice there. Child neglect, abandonment, or abuse. The parent is in jail. Youth or inexperienced parents, so like teenagers having kids. Physical health issues or death of a parent. Unstable home life, homelessness, lack of financial resources or lack of general ability, domestic violence in the home, divorce or other family challenges, and then military deployment. Those are the reasons why grandparents are stepping up to the plate and helping raise kids. Nowhere in there do I see, oh, I just want to do it. Love and affection. Let's be real here. If you're a grandparent and you're listening to this program, like Miss Mona said, she's trying to get out the back door now. Leave her alone.
I can tell you now that my parents have 6 grandchildren and their 3 siblings. Each of us have 2 kids. And I can tell you, my daughter is the oldest, the first, and was the only granddaughter for 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
And their son rose and sat on her. They thought that she was the best, the most, and the only precious princess, and they still do, despite having another one, right? But I can tell you, they're not rushing to my house every day of the week talking about, come, let me take care of your children.
Mm-hmm.
I don't in any way feel that means that they love them any less.
Yeah.
I just personally believe that I made a decision, whether I decided or it was unplanned. I'm not going to say unwanted, but unplanned. People get themselves into these situations. And I'm not casting any aspersions or judgment on people. These things happen. That's the reality of life.
Yeah.
Right? But I still do not believe that it is my parents' responsibility to, I am not I can work. I don't have any sort of impediments, addictions, or otherwise ailments that would hinder me from doing so. So it is my responsibility. That aside, going back to your previous caller, and by the way, I really like when she calls in, she adds a very, very different and salient point to all discussions. But I don't know. She didn't say whether or not she had a domestic employee. But again, I have a domestic employee. I have 2 kids, one who is 5 and literally just about to go to school. So my need for a domestic helper is somehow diminished, but but it's still there. It hasn't dissolved. My son's 5. Like I said, I work. I have to be here for 8:30. I can't get them to school before a certain time and be to my job. So I need help. Even when there's a second parent in the home, you still need help. We find ourselves needing outside help. That's just the reality. And I can give a personal example and an experience. When I had my son, there's quite a significant age difference between my son and my daughter. And I don't want to make it sound like my daughter's so ancient, but at a time when she was there, cost of living was much less than it even is now. The fact is, and yes, I would love to be in a position to offer my nanny $2,500 a month, because I know that would be a significant, beautiful way of living, not just here, but afford her the same back in her home country whenever she chooses to leave or is otherwise rolled over. However, that is just not the reality. There are plenty of people wake up in the morning and want to do that I simply cannot do because I'm either restricted by my own means or restricted by other things. But I live in the real world. And when I hired my nanny, I made sure and I said, I want to put whoever I hire, I want to put them in a position that they're not working 4 jobs, coming to my job, tired, and something happens to my son.
Let me ask you a question. I see Alejandro, he's all for the nannies, for the grandparents, right? So he says children that are raised by parents or grandparents have valuable morals and teach social manners and to be desirable. Let me ask you a question, because I think a lot of people haven't thought about this. Often on this program, I talk about the cycle of chaos that we all live in and cycle of abuse from one generation to the next. If you have that type of a situation, I want Alejandro to think personally about his own situation, for example, right? So if you have a parent that has taught you a particular way that may not be the best in the world, and there was dysfunctionality, mental health issues, abuse, whatever, why would you even think that having a grandparent raise your child to continue that cycle of dysfunction is a good idea?
I mean, personally,
How do you ever break the
like to
cycle if that's the
disclose-
case? I mean, I'm just saying
Well, I don't like to disclose
that's another.
My personal information publicly, but I will say I was never abused as a child. I never, none of those things.
But so many people are.
Right, exactly.
And so many people, when you think about, it doesn't even have to be horrible abuse, but when you think about how your parents, thought differently than you and how they grew up differently than you. I mean, do you really want your children from one generation to the next, never even learning anything new or different? Or, I'm a little bit suspicious about that being a legitimate reason.
I would give it. People can get all up in their feelings and their partners in a bunch. Quite frankly, I don't care. They're my children, and I'm going to do what I believe is best with the information that I have. And I'm not saying that my parents did anything wrong. My parents did the best they could with what they had, the information that was available to them at that time.
Exactly.
My parents were spanking people. They were spanking. They were spankers. I have 2 children, and I can tell you, I will not say that I don't spank. I'm not a spanker. It doesn't work for my children. It doesn't work, period. So for that reason, I know that, for example, my dad is a spanker. Well, because I don't like that, me dictate to him how to do things. He's probably not the best placed person for long-term care for my children. Because guess what? My children are children.
All right.
And they sometimes do not know any better.
Yeah, leave me there. We do have another caller on the line. Good morning, caller, and welcome to the program.
Hi, good morning.
Morning there.
I just wanted to make a quick comment. What are people really complaining about? How long has the minimum wage been $6 an hour?
Yes.
And they sat down and let the progressives do whatever it is they wanted to do.
Yeah, well, they're the ones who claimed they were going to change it. Yep.
Nobody wasn't concerned. But the only reason why everybody is up in an uproar now is because it's starting to affect more Caymanians than the expats. That's the only reason.
And is that really the case, though? What evidence do we have to say that that's the case?
Well, I mean, me personally, from what I see on a day-to-day basis, is starting to, affect more Caymanians now than expats. Because even jobs that used to pay $10 or $12 an hour a couple of years ago can't even pay their employees that now. New employees coming in, you could see the wage go down more and more and more. You know what I mean? So I really don't think Caymanians should complain. They made their bed, they need to lie in it. That's my opinion.
Harsh reality. Thank you, caller. Again, I don't know that it's a situation where Caymanians are being impacted by the minimum wage. They're being impacted by the cost of living. Andrea says, this is an interesting one, and then we have a Cayman Voices segment this morning that we're going to do. But Andrea says, poor young hot grandmother these days who are living their best lives. They don't have time for grandbabies, laughing out loud. There is that segment of the population as well, who, again, if they're in their 60s, they're traveling, they're living their best lives. They're really not interested in raising your kids. I don't know how hot they may be, but yeah, some of them still, they're trying to twerk at carnival. So maybe. Delroy, good morning. Delroy says, first to start with, how old are most grandparents nowadays? Again, we don't have any of that data available. He says they're still in their 30s and 40s. Grandparents? Well, if that's the problem, if that's the case, then you got more problems than being a grandparent. But anyway, so he says, how can they do much? They have CUC and water bill to deal with, so they have to be out there. Well, that's to the previous caller's point, that a lot of grand people, even if they're in their 50s, 60s, or 70s, are still working. Romelia says, good morning, honey chow. Have a blessed and victorious day in the Lord. Camaria says, talk truth now. Grandmas are now 30-ish. Really? So they had kids at 15? Lord Jesus, they're not gonna be able to help you anyway. And like I said, chances are you don't want those grandparents. They probably didn't do the best job raising you. So if you lucked out and you're okay, you don't want them touching your children to mess up another generation. So find another plan. So Camaria says grandparents are now 30-ish. Gone are the days when grandparents are old women cooking, baking, washing, and sitting on the veranda knitting. Honey child. They might still be doing some of those things, but again, they're probably still working and trying to survive themselves. Morning, caller. Welcome to the program.
Morning. What I hear being discussed right now are the symptoms, not the cause. The world has been in a crisis since 2008. If governments had done what needed to be done in 2008, they would have burnt the entire financial system to the ground. So what they chose to do instead is use their credit card to pay their mortgage. And since 2008, we've been going downhill really fast. What is being discussed this morning is one of the symptoms of that reality. And it's not getting any better.
And what happened in 2008?
The financial crash. You remember when the government, essentially what happened is that money was loaned to people, and banks loaned money to people. Bad debts were building up, and instead of the banks just writing those losses off, what some of them decided to do was to take them and package them up in a security. And then they got the rating agencies to falsely label them as being good instruments, right? Like AA rated, and then pension funds bought those instruments thinking they were good investment. Well, when everything collapsed, the US government went as far as taking ownership in certain companies as collateral for the loans to bail out big businesses. You remember, too big to fail? And so we're still managing that crisis today. But to make it worse, what's actually happening now is you have the green agenda that's raising the cost of living around the world. This is not just a Cayman thing. Don't be fooled with that. They're raising the cost of living on top of trying to manage that crisis. In 2020, when you had the virus, the Federal Reserve created trillions of dollars and gave it away. Well, I'm here to tell you that you have to pay the cost of borrowing that money. Okay? There's no such thing as free money. Now, I could get into the reasons why this is being done, which I won't do today, but I'm just explaining that. You think of it like this. If you're flying in a plane, you can go straight down and crash into the ground, or you can glide gradually, and at some point in the future, hopefully the crash won't be as bad. Financially, that's essentially what's happening. That's why the cost of living is out of control. If there's anything that the Cayman Islands government can do, it is go back in history, and there's a man whose name was Basil Johnson. Okay? He had the courage and the wisdom to look at his government back then and say, you can't afford that. Tighten your belt. The politicians that are in the House today don't understand that. That's not even on their radar. And who's paying the price? The average person. Okay? That's just a hint of what's wrong. What you're discussing are the symptoms. Let's address what's causing the symptoms, and we'll be farther ahead than complaining about the symptoms.
All right. Thank you very much. This person says, good morning. Please let them know minimum wage is the least you can earn. Some people don't know what minimum wage means. They think that it is all they will be paid. And again, I encourage people to know and to understand that their earning power can be largely influenced by some of the things that they themselves decide to do. Here's a little bit of interesting information. Again, when you have data and statistics, you can make data-driven decisions, something we really need to learn to do in this country. So in North Dakota, for example, they took a sample of the grandparents, and here's an interesting bit of information. 57% of them are white and not Hispanic. 29% are American Indian and Alaskan natives. 7.5% are Black or African American. 2% are Hispanic or Latino, and 5.5% may be of other races. 47% have no parents of the child in the home. So again, this leads to my opinion that a lot of instances where grandparents are stepping in, it's not really that they're trying to be supportive in the sense that, the parents out there working and earning and bringing an income into the home. They're supporting it because they have no choice. They have no choice but to raise their grandchildren because, again, the reasons that we saw earlier, they're on drugs, they have mental issues, they have emotional issues, there's child abuse and child neglect. They're in jail, so they're not even there. That's why the grandparents are stepping in. 61% are over the age of 60. So the question that we just had, or some people of the opinion that, these are 30-year-old grandparents. Well, we don't have any statistical information available in the Cayman Islands. Data. So we can make data-driven decisions and have data-based discussions. All the D's coming into play this morning, right? So in this particular instance, 61% are under age 60, but of course, I would like to know how much under age 60 or how much over age 40. So again, more information. 15% of those people with the grandparents are living in poverty. What a hot mess. One of the other things that there's so much that I was listening to our Canadian visitors talk about yesterday. They're talking about the benefits, right, that they have, again, for this, the lady who, she can get the death benefit, the MAID, but she can't get benefits to continue living. And then there was something else that they had mentioned where they're giving some kind of a tax break or something to people who are making less than, I think it's less than 40,000 or 45,000. But then the minimum, the poverty line is considered 30 something thousand in Canada. So there were and they're bragging about the number of Canadians who would receive that benefit being in the millions. So they're like, wow, they're bragging about the fact that most Canadians are at or near or below the poverty line and they're going to be getting this particular benefit. I was like, that's really, really interesting. Y'all need to pay attention and listen to what's happening, not just in your own country, because some of these things can help you make decisions about what's happening here. Let's take a quick commercial break. We are going to change gears a little bit. And then Alejandro says, we're not Americans. Sad that we compare ourselves to America. Alejandro, you're missing the point. I need you to pay attention in class. The point is we have no data here in the Cayman Islands to speak of. If we had the data, or you know where I can get it from, send it to me. So we don't have the data here. We can only go off of, generally speaking, we can look at data from anywhere in the world. We can look at data from other Caribbean countries if they have it. We can look at data from the UK. We are looking at people who have available data, available details, and that is how we can further this conversation. You can speculate and say anything you want about what's happening in the Cayman Islands. The fact that you have no data to back it up means that it's not fact, it's an opinion. And that's my problem with even our politicians not being in a position to be able to say how we're making and why we're making the decisions that we make. Why are we prioritizing certain things when they simply don't have the data to back it up? So this isn't about asking America how you feel. This is about show me the data in Cayman to support your opinions and things that you might say are factual or not. You don't have it. So in lieu of not having it, we have to look at people in jurisdictions who actually believe in data and who collect this information. It's as simple as that. All right, folks, let's take a quick commercial break, and then I want to get into our Cayman Voices segment, which I think you're going to find super interesting.
Hello, Cayman. If you have been chosen for the STEPS National Health Survey, thank you so much. But we still need your help. 1,000 more people need to participate in Step 3, the final step of the survey, to ensure that our data reflects the whole population of Cayman. We cannot do this without you. Help us shape Cayman's healthcare services. Say yes to Step 3. For more information, contact the STEPS team on 936-4969 or email mhwsteps@gov.ky.
For 20 years, we've committed to helping the people of the Cayman Islands live longer, healthier, and happier lives. But healthcare and the expectations of patients are rapidly evolving, and so must we. We have made incredible clinical and technological advancements and achieved JCI accreditation, the internationally recognized gold seal of approval for patient safety and quality of care. So it's time for our image to reflect our transformation from a local hospital to a world-class healthcare authority, with a new logo that symbolizes national duty and pride, a statement that reinforces our commitment to our patients every step of the way, with colors as bold as our mission to provide the highest quality healthcare. Dynamic, professional, skilled, committed, caring. This is HSA.
Now, y'all love Popeyes for my fried chicken, but the real ones also love my salty, flaky, covered in butter biscuits. Well, biscuit fans, have I got a treat for you. Introducing new irresistible strawberry biscuits at Popeyes. The perfect balance of salty and sweet thanks to decadent strawberry bits baked right in and mouth-watering creamy icing on top. The perfect dessert for just $2.29, or grab 6 pieces for $12.59.
Strawberry biscuits forever.
Not forever, I'm afraid, honey. Limited time only, and only at Popeyes Louisiana Kitchen on Eastern Avenue.
Ocean Ridge Heights offers an amazing opportunity to own a piece of land in idyllic Cayman Brac, right on the bluff, starting from $80,000. Located in a quiet residential area with high elevation, these lots are ideal for a future home or investment property and are sure to go fast. Cayman Brac offers a laid-back lifestyle, amazing pristine diving, limestone caves, diverse flora, along with amazing wildlife. Inquire about the owner financing options so that you can secure your piece of paradise today. With only a few lots remaining, these are sure to go before you know it. Contact Crichton Properties today on 345-949-5250 or info@crichtonproperties.com.
Recover Personal Injury Attorneys, helping injured people get what they deserve. Did you know that insurance companies have lawyers that represent their interests? Before signing and accepting any settlement, know your rights. Call us today for a free consultation at 924-9999. That's 924-9999. Recover. Your personal injury attorneys are on standby to assist.
Oops, my apologies. No volume. My apologies. I was just reading Morna's comment where Miss Vernita's comment where she says, I feel you, Morna. Some kids think that grandma's job is to mind their kids. And at one point in time, I took care of one grandson, 3 kids, my mama, papa, with not much of an income, no income at all now, and I'm sick and neglected. I was going to say that, you also have to consider the fact that most grandparents simply don't want to do it. They may not tell you that, but they really don't want to do it. If they have the ability to do it, they are just not necessarily that interested. Also, when you're in your 60s, 70s, and beyond, what's going to happen with your energy level? Maybe you don't have the energy to be dealing with kids running you ragged and running you up and down all over the place. I'm just saying. I have a person who sent in something. I'll leave that for tomorrow's show discussion because we do have a Cayman Voices segment that we're going to play this morning. So I am tickled pink to tell you guys that I had the pleasure of sitting down with Miss Suzy Soto. And this History of Turtlers and Schooners book of the Cayman Islands, every single Caymanian needs to have this in your personal collection. I think there's certain local texts and books that you should have. It is well written. We will go through it at some point. But I mean, lots of photos and stories and letters. We've got the legacy of Captain Paul Hurlson. He's on my list. We have, let me see here, Memory of Carly Ebanks, Ranger. I mean, listen, folks, this is such an amazing text. But I want y'all to sit back now at the Simboko, and we're going to talk a bit about Miss Suzy, who was pivotal in getting this book to production and putting it all together. What an amazing lady. So listen, if you're interested in getting the book, let me get you some details on how you can actually get it. It has been donated to, I think, all of the schools. Public library should now have a copy, but you can also get it at the store. Let me just confirm. Which store? Hold on. I might have to confirm this. Oh yeah. So this is for sale at clmpublishing.com. It is the More Than Words bookstore in the Thompson building on the second floor. So you can contact them. Books are for sale. I think they're only $45, which for this text is amazing. And these are actual stories told by Caymanian turtlers, seamen, shipbuilders, world famous iron men, and wooden ships with over 100 photos. And I agree that this book belongs in every single home in the Cayman Islands. You've got to really know your history. And this is one of the things that will certainly allow you to know the history. 25th anniversary and book launch of the Cayman Maritime Heritage Foundation and the Cayman Islands Cat Book Club. And this happened on July the 15th. So sit back and enjoy this amazing segment with Miss Suzy Soto. Thank you so much, Miss Sue. She's talking about the grandkids conversation again. So we'll come back to some of that tomorrow. Irvin says, Sandy, did know that grandkids are therapy. Yes, you'll soon know. Please save this live. Yes, but you know, you don't need a therapy 24/7, honey child. Sometimes you just need peace and quiet as a senior, not young children running around being kids. Be all the therapy they want. Sometimes you just want to go for a stroll as a senior and sit down on your veranda knitting, and that should be your prerogative to do so. Okay, so sit back and enjoy this amazing interview, folks. Individual stories, we're able to see the common thread that binds us together. Cayman Voices was a dream that I had for several years now. It's about taking the power of storytelling to embrace our own collective history as a people. Through our individual stories, we're able to see the common thread that binds us together as one. One person's personal journey has become our collective culture, heritage, and history. This series will show people from all walks of life sitting down with me as the host and going through their life journey. Sometimes there are unknown elements of their lives, but ultimately we're going to walk away having learned something new with every person that we sit down with. I guess I would explain it as an exploration of our story. I'm naturally curious about people and their lives, so Cayman Voices is exciting and allows me to capture this for everyone to enjoy. We are seeking out Caymanians, multi-generational, as well as some who have moved here to, uproot their entire lives and to make this their home. This stream would not be possible without some sponsorship, and so I'd like to thank the DART organization for stepping up to the plate to ensure that we're able to deliver regular monthly content for our viewers to enjoy. So sit back, kick up your feet, turn up the radio, relax, and listen to Cayman Voices. So we are here with Miss Suzy, if I can call you that, this afternoon.
Sure.
My absolute pleasure to finally be able to interview you. You've been on my bucket list for a very, very long time. I think you've had an extremely interesting life. So we're gonna delve into it a little bit here.
I feel like I've lived 3 different lives.
Right? Yeah. So we're gonna delve into that. A little bit. Normally we kind of start at the beginning with these interviews.
Okay.
So people are very interested, as Caymanians would say, who you're from, where did you come from?
Sure.
So tell us a little bit about your childhood.
I grew up in Wilmington, Delaware for about 11 years.
Right.
My dad was son of a minister, Methodist minister.
Okay.
And he wanted to be a pharmacist.
Oh.
But his father went to a church revival, became a Methodist minister.
Okay.
So that ended his dream, but he went to night school after he was married to my mom, went to night school at Drexel, and graduated head of his class as a chemical engineer. And he became a specialist in titanium.
Well, that's interesting.
Yes. I remember as a little girl being at his graduation and him getting his whatever honors.
Yes, wow.
And then my mom was a nurse.
Okay.
And they worked very hard. And because they were paying for school, we didn't have money to fritter around. So I was very frugal to this day.
Yes.
Even my kids use the word cheap, Mom. And I don't care.
Yes.
But it's a good trait.
Yeah, you remember leaner times, so to speak.
Yes.
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 Yeah. And I think that, we can all relate, I guess, to this. When you grow up in a particular set of circumstances, I've spoken to people who might have gone through like the Great Depression or poverty or whatever, that has an impact on you for your entire life and how you see the world and how you handle your finances. So you've always remained frugal as much as possible.
I do my own nails to this day.
Wow.
And
they look good, actually.
I've started going to a place to get my hair done.
Wow.
Yeah, it just started.
Oh my.
Yeah, so that's been nice.
Yeah.
But I mean, only probably for a little bit. But
And how many siblings then?
None.
None. You're an only child.
Yeah, I was an only child.
Oh wow.
My mom had a lot of medical problems.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So she was a nurse, and your dad ended up being
a chemical engineer. And a specialist in paint. And when I was about 11, we moved to Chicago. And he was sent to the Middle East because of all the paint companies and paper companies in Michigan, in Wisconsin, and around Minnesota. Yeah. So actually, when I got to be a teenager, I traveled with my dad to do these different plants and stuff, because he would have to tell them how to adjust their titanium. If you look at your toothpaste, there's usually a little bit of titanium in there for the weight.
Okay.
So, yeah. So it was interesting.
So that must have been a very interesting childhood.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. Yeah.
Yeah. So because even back then, the privilege of being able to travel and see different places, experience different cultures, that was, a bit unusual for a lot of people. Yeah. So how did you discover this little place called the Cayman Islands?
Well, my dad was put to Chicago, then he was transferred to Neenah, Wisconsin. And when he was transferred up there, there was a Bergstrom paper company that he sold titanium to for their paper.
Okay.
And so that's how I met Eric Bergstrom.
Oh, wow.
And so I was there the middle of my junior year in school, and then we met, and I think we were married a couple of years later and started a family.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. That's quite fortuitous.
He was transferred from there as into Chicago, and he was a small town guy, and it was a big adjustment. So when we were in Chicago, back to Chicago for me, it was, he got a newspaper article from New York, the New York Times, talking about the island that time forgot.
And this is your husband now that we're talking
Yes,
about? Yes.
Eric Bergstrom.
Okay.
Yeah, our first director of tourism.
Yes, okay.
And for 25 years.
Yeah.
Who did a great job. Eric did a great job.
Yep.
So we got here by visiting.
So it's from a newspaper article that you saw?
Yes.
Right.
The island that time forgot. However, before that, in '59, we were bareboating. We were sailors. Eric was a racing sailor, and at 17, I used to race sailboats, and I was called a light sailman and a board. I balanced boards on the boards, like the cat boats, had the board out to the side, and I did that. So that was very exciting. I did that for about 5 years, and we raced a sailboat.
Right.
Yeah.
So he sees this article about the island that
time forgot,
and he thought, this looks like an adventure?
Well, we went first to BVI in '59. And we went and fell in love with the BVI, but there was a place called Joost van Dyke that we fell in love with. That was to our liking. But we had 2 children, or 3 children then, 3 daughters, and there was no school. And I said, man, there was no way I could teach. I was no teacher. I had no patience for teaching. So that's what happened.
Right.
And then we came here in '61, and we went to Little Cayman, and I've actually turned in movies to the archives about that we took in '61.
You took like family
landing,
footage?
Landing in Cayman Brac.
Right.
And we stayed with Anton Foster and his wife. And he took us to Little Cayman in a little 16-foot putt-putt. And that was an experience, oh glory. That was an experience because Anton was a big guy and a wonderful cook, wonderful chef. I'll never forget his coconut ice cream. And then we went, and he said, when we get there, I want to warn you about the mosquitoes, because when we get there, they're really thick. And so when we got over there, the 3 of us, his wife included, and Eric and myself, said, Anton jumped out first and went on the dock up to Miss Eleanor's store.
Yes.
And it was a long dock. I'll never forget it. And as he got closer to the land, he started doing this. We said, oh, look at him, he's trying to fool us. So when we got out and went in, let me tell you, it was a curtain that we did that too. And I got into the woman, I said, oh, I need to buy some bug spray. She said, girl, we have no bug spray, but she said, here's vinegar, a bottle of vinegar. You take it and douse yourself with vinegar. That was the only, but it was awful.
Wow.
It was awful.
And it was that thick that you would do your hands?
That thick. Anton was not joking.
Wow.
Bless his heart.
Yeah. Oh, that was quite an experience then. So you picked up, so when you moved here, you already had 3 girls. So you picked up and came.
In '63, we moved.
Yes.
because in 61 we also bought the land. But that's a story. The people at Seaview told us there was no land available on the 7 Mile beach. In 61.
That's
That didn't
unbelievable.
well, yes, but Eric was so exuberant about what we wanted to do.
Yes.
So a hotel that we wanted to build became a threat. So the only land, and Olive Hines took us, she was quite elderly, took us to the land we built Tortuga on. And this, there was not even a road into it. And I thought I was going to die walking in. And I said, well, this woman can do it. I've got to do this. I almost perished.
Oh my God.
We saw the 300 feet, and it seemed like this was the only land available.
Wow.
And bought it. And that's when he decided we were coming and doing hotel. And we came in 63 and built it. He built it in 9 months.
Built
No
it in
road. There
9
was no
months.
road, my dear. No water, no
Wow.
electricity.
Yes.
Nothing. And actually, there was a bulldozer. The Lord works in marvelous ways with a key in it. It was the government bulldozer. And he got in it and bulldozed a sand road to Tortuga.
Oh my. So before you moved here, you had this vision then, this plan of coming and building a hotel.
That's it.
Yeah.
I said I didn't like the cold weather.
Yes.
I was a girl standing waiting for the school bus, and there was a snowdrift that was taller than me. I was shivering. I was so cold. I said, Lord, there has to be some better way to live than this. And then in the fall, everything died.
Yes.
And then winter, you were miserable. I was miserable. And the spring was nice, and summer, but there was too little of it. But to have spring and summer all the time.
All the time is what you wanted. Yes. So
that's when I was little.
Yes. So you knew the cold weather just wasn't for you.
No.
Yeah. So how did he manage to build that in 9 months? That seems like an amazing feat, really.
Somebody like Norris Jackson, people will remember, was a wonderful carpenter. We had wonderful people that were carpenters and wonderful people. And he had a truck, and he drove them out there every day. And then we had EastEnders working there. And to this day, I'm just very attached to East End.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
So you build this, it was a proper hotel, and that's how you got started then.
Oh, my dear, we had to get 2 Lister diesel generators. We had to provide water. We built a reserve for the water from the ground because it needed to be aerated. So we aerated the water that we used for shower and for toilets and stuff like that. And then we had cisterns.
Wow.
So we only could build 10 rooms, and then we added 4, and then we knew we couldn't make it with just 14 rooms. So we hired Heber Arch as he came out of architectural school, and he designed putting some on top, which Eric had done the foundation to add. And
of course, that's from Arch and Godfrey.
Yes,
Wow.
Heber, one of my dearest friends. And planning at that time turned it down because we didn't have enough land.
Oh.
We certainly did, because on that property now is several hundred apartments, I think.
Yeah, it's amazing. But back then they were saying you didn't have enough land.
Have enough land. Oh, my dear, what we went through out there.
Yeah.
Oh, no water, no electricity.
But you just persevered.
Oh, and the bottom, we had turtle grass. And you weren't supposed to remove any turtle grass. But I learned how to dig turtle grass, we couldn't even get in this water. But I learned there's this much, a foot at least, of thick roots and shells and sand. If you're digging, you're not supposed to do that, but we needed to get in there for some of it. So anyway, a lot of stories from there. A lot of stories.
And how did you get people interested? Because, you know, the tourism industry for Cayman took a little bit of time to build up, but I can imagine in the early years, you'd probably tell people about the Cayman Islands, maybe back in Chicago or back home, and they'd be like, where is that? They had no idea.
And it was also the time of the Cuban crisis.
Right.
So you had to fly around Cuba when we actually came. So it was quite a feat. So we got people here, and actually I didn't realize it was so windy out there until we moved, till we lived there. And it was quite windy sometimes during the winter season. And so I would go with Blucher Baden, and he was called like the herb doctor.
Oh, yes.
And he would take us on tours in the bush. And then I learned about the caves in Northside. So I planned trips to the caves, and we'd get these executives, and they loved crawling around and getting into the caves. The caves that are now a beautiful tourist destination. And I'll never forget that because we did that quite a bit. I love I love caving, spelunking. But yeah, we went to so we just did anything we could to entertain the guests.
Right.
So we got the Pepsi people came, and they found us because word of mouth got around, and Eric had graduated from Dartmouth, and so I think connections through different ways. But the Pepsi people came, and Burns Ruddy was one of our customers in the early days.
Wow.
Who I just went to church with this morning.
Yes, yes, yes.
After all these years.
My
Goodness.
Isn't that something?
And he met the Pepsi people, who then had Burger King and yes. So
that's how that connection
Burns
began.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
He's on my list as well of people that I need
Burns,
to interview. Oh
wonderful.
my gosh.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
They're wonderful.
Oh,
that
my
whole
goodness.
family.
Yes, isn't that something?
Yeah. And then the Connolly family, Cleo and Frank. And I did not have any foreigners working there for a long time. It was all East Enders, and I loved them all. And we worked together.
Yes.
I can remember one incident that was rather shocking because I designed the tables out of Spanish elm. They were made in Jamaica. Went to Jamaica for our furnishings and stuff. And I'll never forget one time we had what is this? The work table with two horses and a pine spread, and put a tablecloth on it because we had our first guest. And I was worried about the food being hot.
Yes.
Because you have to have food hot.
Yeah.
Hot. Or if it's supposed to be cold, it needs to be cold.
Yes.
So I was sitting there one Thanksgiving, our first Thanksgiving with guests, and food came out, and all I could think of was the mashed potatoes have to be hot. So all I could think of was the mashed potatoes being put down, and we served family style. They put the mashed potatoes down. I took my finger, and I put them in the mashed
to test the temperature.
They're not hot. Take them back.
Oh my gosh.
So they took them back and heated them up. And then when I put it in there, Eric said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm seeing if the potatoes are hot." He said, anyway, everybody laughed.
Yes.
It was hysterical.
Yeah.
So there were many, many moments like
Yes.
that. I didn't stick my finger in the food anymore.
After that.
But in all my
Yeah.
restaurants thereafter, the story got around, so we had hot food, hot,
Everybody
and
knew.
cold food, cold.
Yeah.
Was served on ice. Oh yes, that
Everybody knew the standard.
That story worked
was
out
set.
really well down through the ages.
It set a precedent for what should follow. Yes. So you went from 10 rooms to 14 rooms.
That's it.
And then it was at 14 rooms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Cleo Connolly was like my sister.
Yes.
And my mother at times. And the only time we ever had words was when she tried riding a bicycle. She rode a bicycle up there, but riding a bicycle in sand is no easy thing. So she got up there, and I was young, and she was a little bit older, and her mom was still living. I used to go give her mom back rubs. I can remember because she was sort of bedridden. And Cleo came in, and she said, well, you know, she said, I don't think I'm going to like taking orders from you. I never took orders from anybody. I never run my own house and everything. I said, well, yes, you would take orders from me.
Yes.
But I said, I will not ever give you an order without an explanation.
Yes.
And that was that.
Yeah.
And we were so close.
Yes.
And then Frank came along, and he was on a ship, and he had vacation, he was painting. And I said, Cleo, I really like your brother. But I knew he was a Christian, and I knew he didn't drink alcohol. I said, I'd like him for a bartender. And she said, well, ask him. I said, no, please, you ask him. She said, no. She said, you go ask him. So I did, and Frank was with me from then.
Wow. Someone who didn't drink became a bartender.
He was, yes. And down here at Krakow,
yes,
when I started that, I had Lindy, and she did not drink either. And they were very good bartenders.
So how
very trustful.
What do you think was, because I would imagine sometimes a bartender needed to taste the drinks, but
they didn't need
to.
it. No.
Wow.
No,
That's
they had recipes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they just had a good touch.
And then Frank, I got into being a director of the Caribbean Hotel Association. And then I was on a small hotels committee. And we traveled the Caribbean for 5 years. And when I did, I needed Frank, and I made him manager. So he became manager. He said, no, he couldn't. I said, yes, you can. It was his typing he was worried about. And I said, I'll do everything in duplicates, and you just fill it out by hand. There's not a problem. I said, Frank, you can do this. So,
wow. Let me talk a little bit about, because I find that so interesting, how you came here and you became part of the community.
Oh, yes.
And East End. You know, you're getting emotional remembering about Miss Cleo and Frank.
Well, you see right now, his son, McFarlane, has
yes, yeah,
and that was very unexpected.
Yes.
So yeah,
yeah. How did that happen? Because now, in this day and age, we have people come here, and they're talking about they can't integrate with the local community. They have such a hard time.
Oh, I don't know what's wrong with them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry.
You know, you said you hired only locals. I mean, it's doable. Even when Mr. Frank didn't believe in himself, you said, no, you can do this.
He can do this.
Here's how I'll help you get it done.
All of them.
Yeah.
All of them. Even Cleo, she wouldn't go into the dining room and talk to the guests. I said, you're an interesting woman. I said, you've got things to offer. I explained to them that nobody that's coming here is any better than you. You are a wonderful person, and you have things to offer. And The other thing was that when we got a cranky guest, I would say we do not know what they're going through.
Yes.
Maybe they've been told that this will be their last vacation. They've got cancer or something like that.
Right.
So we've got to win them over. So we were very, very popular. Our
Yeah.
business grew, and we became one of the 12 leading world resorts in,
Wow.
I think it was Vogue, British Vogue magazine. Yeah, and that was the philosophy. I said, when there's a difficult guest, that's somebody we've got to win over.
Wow.
And we did. We worked hard at it.
Yes. Wow.
So then that's when, yeah, so that's...
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So you mentioned
it isn't
being-
amazing.
Yeah.
It's what people should be doing for
Yes.
each other.
Oh,
And
sure.
that is following, you
Yeah.
know, what we're supposed to do.
Yeah.
You know?
You
Oh, but
mentioned that,
anyway, she fell off. Cleo, when she was riding
yes.
out there, said, "Yeah, I fell off the bicycle 3 times." She said,
Yes.
"Bless her heart."
Oh,
my
goodness.
God, bless her heart.
You mentioned that you were a junior in university when you met your husband.
A junior in high school.
In high school.
Yes.
Oh, so
I
you were
didn't
very
go-
young. You didn't go
Yes.
to university. You just this
No.
was high school. Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Okay, right. So then you became a wife. and
Then
you started-
afterwards, I had the 2 girls, and we lived near hospital, and I was a block away. And I asked Eric. I said I would really like to pursue my nursing career.
Right.
So he agreed and was very supportive.
Yes.
And I got my LPN nursing license. It was
I see.
close.
Yes.
You know, so I took
Yeah.
the opportunity.
Yes.
And then I taught my kids that when we came here, any opportunity that presents itself to learn and grow, take it. Because you may not get that opportunity again.
Right.
So, and that was a good lesson. I told that to the East End people as well. Well, Cleo learned to come out and talk to the guests. She was fantastic and so funny. And she traveled to visit a lot of our guests.
Wow.
She would travel all over. In fact, when the hurricane took her house one years ago, my son that has Edgewater, they rebuilt a new house for it in like 18 days. And I can remember I was helping move her clothes from her nephew's house to her house. And I said, Lord Almighty, I said, Cleo, I said, and every hat matched, everything matched.
Oh, wow.
I said, you've got more clothes than the Queen. I said, you don't need all these clothes. What are you doing with these clothes? Are you moving them? She said, oh, yeah. She said, well, people send me say, I said, you got to tell them to stop.
Yes.
But she was wonderful.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing.
And they were a great influence on my kids' lives. So we were family.
Yeah.
I mean, that was our family.
Yep. And so even back then, you recognized the potential in people, even if they didn't see it themselves, and just
definitely.
encourage them.
Darby Bodden came as a skinny kid, and he was gorgeous. He was just lovely. And then we used to warn him about, he used to grab hold of the turtles and ride them. We told him not to do that.
Yeah.
And he was at our house years later when I was married to Bob Soto, and he was at our house 2 nights before when we got word that he had drowned. And Bob said it had to be shallow water blackout because they lock in. And we warned him, he warned him, I warned him, and we all warned him. That was a tragedy.
Oh my gosh.
Beautiful, beautiful man he turned out to
Yeah. Wow.
be. It's very sweet.
Yeah. So you did the original hotel for how many years, roughly, would you say?
18.
For 18 years. And then you started to branch out. You did?
No, we separated.
Okay.
And Eric was in the early part. Eric and I joined the Caribbean Hotel Association, which was started back then in the 60s. And then he was asked by John Cumber to head up a tourism committee. I can't remember what it's called now. But that went on for 7 years.
Okay.
And he worked for 7 years for this with
and that
no
would have
pay.
been the governor. Mr. John.
Yeah, well, he was administrator. Then they wanted to
Administrator,
make him
okay.
governor. He said, no, don't bother. Do it with the next one. That's when
Yes.
Long came in. He
Okay.
said when Long came in. But John Cumber contributed a great deal that, you know, is sometimes lost a little credit. But, yeah, so John was very instrumental in that. Was called Tourist Board, I think. Yeah, it became a Tourist Board.
Okay.
And then Eric was voted in as the head of the Caribbean Tourism Association, and he was there for 4 years. And he's the one that actually started the New York office of the Caribbean Tourism Association.
Wow.
So he was not getting any pay.
Yes.
I was running the little place up there.
Yes.
And it was very difficult. So I was had Chris. I had two boys, but in my last pregnancy with Jim, I got pneumonia. I was very ill in Miami, and they didn't want me to come home. They wanted me to have Jim up there. I said, no, I'm going home. And so I came home, had him here. So I had a friend here, Marguerite White, who said, you're killing yourself. You've got to stop it. And then my mother-in-law came along and she said, you can't keep doing this. She said, either Eric gets some money,
right,
or he comes home and helps you with this, because you
Yes.
can't keep this up.
Oh, I see.
And it was 7 years with no
Wow.
pay. Yeah.
Wow.
But I believed in it.
Yeah.
Because Eric was smart and he did a great job. So, so he made great strides in those years. Yeah. But you know how it goes. You have to wake up at one point. So I said it was getting rough. And then Marguerite White said, you need some help. Now you've got 5 children. And I tried to keep up with her, but I couldn't.
Yes.
Anyway, she hired me my first help with the children.
Okay.
Yeah, she did that, Marguerite.
Wow. So you had 5 children running a business, the hotel, pretty much on your own, because your husband was focused on trying to build Cayman's tourism
industry,
reputation. And
along with
industry.
Warren Connolly. I'll never forget Warren. And then
Yes.
Jim came along, Jim Bodden.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
Then I did a campaign of Spend a Smile on a Tourist. And that was a wonderful campaign. To this day, it would be a good campaign. Yeah.
Beautiful. All right. So you go through a separation at some point with your husband, Eric. When does he become director of tourism? Was that afterwards?
No.
No.
During it,
This
in
was
the
a
60s. I think it was 71. It's in the
Okay.
book.
Yes.
The
okay.
actual dates.
All right.
It's in the book.
Yeah, we're going to talk about this.
That's
book here in
when
a little bit.
they made the Department
They
of
actually
Tourism.
set up Department of Tourism.
And Eric was
Yeah.
very well respected in the Caribbean. So, you know.
He was a natural choice for that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, he became very popular. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, you know, I think once you're a businesswoman, you probably always will be. So then do you start looking at other opportunities outside of the hotel, or how do you get started?
Actually, what happened, I was so glad to, I was tired, I was wore out.
Yeah.
So I was at my mother's when Arthur Hunter called me, and he had a client, and he said, this client needs help. And I told him the only person that can bring this through would be you. So I became very good at marketing. So I was taken for the London House. They needed help, so I did that. In the meantime, we were divorced, and then Bob and I got married. So,
okay, wow,
yeah.
Yeah.
And then he decided I'd had enough work, so I was taken out of that job.
Okay, and then you had a little bit more time to...
Not really, because he got me up in Frank Sound, and then he said, there's this restaurant. There was this restaurant, steakhouse. I don't know, it was at Red Bay. It was a steakhouse. And he said, it's for sale. And he said, I think it would be good for you to buy it.
This was in Frank Sound?
No.
In the Red Bay area?
Red Bay.
A steakhouse?
Red Bay, a steakhouse.
Okay.
And he said, they've got liquor license, and the liquor license moratorium. He said, if you could buy it and sell it in a year or something, and make some money on the liquor license. And I bought it, and the government took the moratorium off. And you could buy a liquor license for $1,500.
Oh,
so
my
that
goodness.
went out the window.
Yes.
So I had to make that a success.
Yes.
So that's how the
steakhouse.
Crack Conch got started. Yeah.
Oh, right.
Yeah. It was there.
So Crack Conch was originally in Red Bay?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know
And
that.
then Reed Dennis moved in after me.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that became...
Dirty Reeds.
Dirty Reeds. So that's where Dirty Reeds was.
Yeah.
But it was a steakhouse before that.
Yeah.
I never knew that. Wow.
No, it was Crack Conch before that.
Crack Conch, sorry. Yeah.
And then before that, it was a steakhouse.
Right.
A Bodtown guy owned it.
That is something else. Okay. So then you moved it to West Bay at some point.
I moved to across from the beach club.
Yes. Okay. Well, that's interesting. Wow.
And then I built Crack Conch up.
The current location.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. That is something else. So, of course, most people will know the name Bob Soto. I mean, you know, he's in his own right, you know, has an amazing history. How did the two of you meet then?
Well, we had dive.
Yes.
Eric was a diver and ran in 63. From 63, we had a dive operation up there in East End. So we were the first dive operation in East End. Where some people forgot that or didn't know about it.
Yes.
But we did. We had a dive operation.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, which was really in the old days. My God. And so we are all divers. Even right now, one of my great-grandsons is now 10, got his scuba instruction. So it's from both sides of the family. Yeah.
Amazing. Yes.
Yeah.
So you were already sort of in the industry then, and you would meet people. And I guess in those days, Cayman
he used
was
to
still...
fill tanks for me. I mean, you know, Sandra, in the old days, we all got along. We had to get along.
Yes.
There were a few holdouts that, you know, didn't want to work together, but we basically worked together to build tourism. That was the only way we could get going.
Yeah.
So it annoys me when I see, you know, one person tear down the other. That's not going to get anybody anywhere.
Exactly.
That's not going to get anybody anywhere.
Yes.
And of course, the restaurant industry grew and grew. Yeah, so I was president of that for a while. Yeah.
Beautiful. Wow. So what other businesses have you done then? Crack Conch?
Well, the Caribbean Hotel Association, I became the second director, a woman, the second woman director. And we started a group called Small Hotels Advisory Council, and we traveled for 5 years. There were 95% of the indigenous hotels in the Caribbean that were going bankrupt because of sharp people in the States and in England that were taking advantage of local people. And we felt that was wrong. And it was a man from Jamaica, Jack Gold, who had bought a place called Sign Great House, did a place called Sign Great House outside of Montego Bay. He was brilliant, and I learned a lot of marketing from him. And so it was also a learning experience. And then Lorette Rush was the other woman, and she had a hotel in St. Thomas, right across from the airport, Beachcomber. So we became 3 close friends. And then we'd bring in experts on marketing, on brochures, on how to do this, on how to do that. And then the governments picked up on it because we were making a difference. And it was a lack of training or a lack of this or that, and meeting the right people.
Right.
Yeah. There was a woman that we had as a representative for our hotel that represented ourselves and Beach Club, and she would tell people, we were paying her every month, and she would tell people, oh, you don't want to go there, because that's a 5-hour drive, and it's dusty, and you want to stay at Beach Club. And so we found out from people later, you know, but she was selling people away from us. And the same thing that my friend at Jack Gold, we were in a seminar after the second year we'd been together, and he was telling of this woman doing this thing. I said, was it so-and-so? He said, yeah. I said, oh, me too. But, and then we did kitchens, and then we did inspections for hotels, coming in the front door. Do you know the most important room in the house of a hotel or restaurant? What is the most important room?
Well, it's because you said kitchen. I'm going to go with kitchen.
Bathrooms.
The bathrooms.
The bathrooms.
Okay.
If their bathrooms aren't clean,
yes,
and well kept, you don't want to go there.
Yes.
So
okay,
it was just these things. So the government started hearing about it, and they would call us in. So 5 years I did traveling to different islands. 26. I did 26 different islands.
Wow.
It was exhausting. I don't know how I did it all.
And all this time, you've got kids that you're raising.
Yeah.
You're being a mother. You're making sure that they're, well behaved and getting an education.
And then I got the bright idea in our group. I said, we're going to one island and we're missing some of the other important points because we were zeroing in on what that island's problems were. And we would meet with government and the local people first, and then we would arrange the seminar. So I said, we need to do a book. So we did the first book on how to run a small hotel in the Caribbean.
Wow.
Yeah, and my friend Pam Swaby, after we'd been close friends for years, she said, that was my Bible for running the hotel. Yeah. So that was good. Yeah.
That was amazing.
But a lot of work.
A lot of work, yes. All right, so we've been talking about some of your early years, but I feel like we've advanced quite a bit already. And you were just talking about how, as Caymanians would say, not every disappointment is misfortune. Is that the right way around?
That's true.
Yes.
That's true. And so we realized years later that the Lord works in mysterious ways. And we were needed in East End. We were needed up there. There was very little road from Baden Town out. And I can remember one time the new administrator was coming, John Cumber, and he was going to be at town hall. And I was very nervous, and Cleo got me dressed and told me, and I had to wear gloves and a hat, and I was very nervous, and I went there, and then the road was awful. And so the UK had promised these people a road, and so after he gave a welcome speech, I got up in my little white shirt dress and I went on and said what I thought, which has always been my motto. I always tried to speak the truth, and I did. And this poor man was in a state of shock. And John was very, very amiable and very clever, and he was also very, very caring about the local people. So I said, you people in England didn't do this, and you promised this, and you promised this, this village road, and they've got nothing but a sand dirt road, and it's terrible. I went on and on and on, and this man almost, I think the words came out of his mouth, I was hit by a blonde bombshell. But afterwards we all became good friends, and he became godfather to my my sons, and then I became godmother to his grandson, and it's gone down through the years now where kids went.
And eventually the road was built at some point.
Yes, but actually at one point they had a fire, and do you remember the old fire? It burned down the government building, the little government house.
Oh my
a
gosh.
2-story wooden building. And I was glad because I had written some blistering letters to that poor man.
This was in East End, the fire?
No,
This
no,
was
in Georgetown. There was a fire that burned down what was called the government house. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
So, yeah. So that was probably a good idea.
Yeah.
For setting a fire.
Oh my gosh. So you've written several books.
Well, this isn't only myself. I got it for self. I had 6 years I've been writing in it.
Right.
But it was started in 1999 by Charis Miller, and he wanted to get the history. He is passionate about the history of the sea. And the
so I'm going to let
clubs.
you hold that up so everybody can just see.
And the capital clubs.
Yes. So this one is called A History of Turtlers and Schooners of the Cayman Islands.
Right.
It's beautifully done.
Thank you.
So
my favorite part are
Yes.
getting these pictures.
Yes.
I had months to get pictures. It took to get these pictures.
Yep.
And people, and you know.
And those are all captains.
These
and
are all
seamen.
not captains. These are all turtlers.
These are all turtlers.
These are all turtlers.
Okay.
Captain Ali is up here.
Yes.
He ran a schooner for turtlers. And I mean, the schooners were built to fit the catboats in. The catboats were built to fit into a schooner. So these ancestors of people, the young people here, were so clever, and they amazing, amazing skills. The skills. I mean, even the steel was made here by Caymanian.
Wow.
The steel.
It's beautiful.
Yeah,
So
and
tell
then
us a little
the
bit.
cover.
Yes.
This is the Cayman Islands Regatta 1935. It's the Rembro and the Caymania racing at a start. And this was, I believe, the first race. And this picture was a picture I got not from the archives. It was a picture I had as a postcard.
Oh, wow.
So I want to make that clear.
Yes, beautiful. So it's quite a comprehensive book.
Yes.
How did you do all this research, and how did the team put it together?
Well, actually, when we did the monument, the tradition monument, I researched every 477 people that died at sea, and I researched those. I used the telephone book, and I called every family till I found the one that's, and Lord knows why I didn't have the smarts to record those stories.
Amazing.
I heard and cried. I'd cry on the phone.
Yes.
There are things in this book. There's a letter in here by Captain Connolly about Captain Rowley with the Hustler, when the Hustler went down. And I've insisted that it got printed. It got printed in here the way it was transcribed from Captain Connolly. And it's beautiful. And every Caymanian seaman that's read it has cried. This is the letter. You kind of need you almost need a magnifying glass to read it. But it is in his writing.
Wow.
It's from his heart. And it shows the intelligence and the beauty of the language that they used in those days.
Yes.
And that needed to be preserved.
Let me
I
just
was
have
just
a look.
stinker about not having people fix the words.
Let me see. Wow, and it's quite a long letter.
It's like the book Far Tortuga.
Yeah.
When I was reading that,
So
I
all of
understand
this-
they're going to make a movie of it here.
All of this is
Far
letter.
Tortuga. Did you know that?
No.
Yes, but the accent in there was not. It troubled me reading it because the accent was not right. So.
Would you read a little bit? I don't know if you can.
Yes, I would.
You'll put on your glasses.
I think I need them.
Okay.
This is from Captain Connolly about Captain Laurie and our hustler that went down with 13 people. 2 of Bob's brothers were on the schooner. It's like every one of the schooners had family on them. So when a ship went down, it was maybe 1, 2, or 3, or 4 of the same family.
Wow.
It was tragedy. It was tragedy. But this shows the respect and love one seaman had for the other. It also will tell you these seamen were Christian seamen. And if you go to sea, you better be. So this was from Captain Conley, and it says, "The acting commissioner of the Cayman Islands, Your Honor, a happy New Year to you, sir. I wish to write you a sad story of the ill-fated hustler and myself, in which I am asking of you, sir, to have it read in every town and village by some of your intelligent clerks. How I came to save myself and crew, and every father, every mother, every loving brother, every loving sister, and every true friend that hears my letter read. It must bring tears into their eyes. But before going any further, I wish to make mention to you that some of my story will not be interesting to you, but to get the interesting part, I have to write the disinteresting part." And I mean, it goes on beautifully. And it's so from the heart. And he is defending Captain Laurie. Because, of course, the families were angry.
Right.
And it was Captain Conley who had suggested to Captain Laurie that they turn around and go back. And Captain Laurie said, "It's just dust. I'm going on." And Captain Conley turned around. And his story is totally incredible because he was tied to the wheel for 2 days and 2 nights.
Wow.
And he had, I think he put in an untrained crew or something like that. And he told the boys, "Get below and lock yourself in and don't come out until the storm is over." So how incredible is that, Sandra? How incredible.
Absolutely.
So
Now tell us a little bit about, before we put this book down, how can people get a copy of this? Because this is part of our history, and I think that you know, every school needs to have a copy, multiple
well,
copies.
we've given them 100 copies.
Oh, beautiful.
But they should go into every school.
Every home.
Every
really.
school.
Yes.
And every Caymanian home.
Yeah, libraries,
and when you've
yes.
got a young person, especially the young men that are, you know, thinking a gang, maybe if they get a, maybe they need to start going back to sea. And there's still jobs on, you know, these ships. And these men, look at the faces, look how strong they were. Look the strength of these people. They were not weak men, and they grew into amazing men. When you see some older man walking on the road, maybe stop and see if he needs a ride, because most likely he was somebody who went to sea. A lot of the turtlers are gone there. There's a few left, and few precious souls.
Yes.
So.
And you've got an album here as well.
Well,
can you share a little bit?
I don't know if you want me to. This is very long, girl.
Oh, let's crack it open and see.
Well, here's
some of the memories you've got in there.
Here's a picture of Cleo.
Oh yes, beautiful.
I don't know if I can.
Oh yeah, we can see that. That's gorgeous. So
picture
that's
Cleo.
her, and is she cooking there on the right hand side?
No, that's Floria.
Oh, okay.
That's Florian Rankin.
Ah, okay.
And then this is an old picture of Tortuga. And
is that you?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Beautiful. I must say, your daughters look just like you there.
And then this is a picture of Frank and Woody, who was our fishing guide and maintenance guy, did everything. And this is Lingard. Lingard. I had Lingard and Gladstone.
Beautiful.
Very sweet. Anyway, this whole thing is just full of pictures and things. So I don't know what you'd
full
want.
a lot of good memories.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Now you're known in the community for your philanthropy and for doing a lot of community work, community service. And one of the things in more recent years that you're very, very passionate about is the Cayman Islands Heart.
Yes, Cayman Heart Fund.
Cayman Heart Fund. So tell us a little bit about how that got started and how you became a part of that organization.
I had a heart problem myself, and I have a pacemaker.
Okay.
So I show it to everybody. What's here?
That's your microphone.
Oh, it's sitting on top of my pacemaker.
Oh gosh.
Anyway, so
Yes.
yes, so I've had it from 2001.
Right.
And people were frightened when they're told they need a pacemaker. They're very frightened. And so it's really nothing. It's just a battery, keep you going. I mean, we're very lucky people.
Yes.
So, but people need to know their numbers. They need to, something out now is the calcium test, where they test the calcium scan, it's called a scan, where they can tell the calcium buildup in your body, which is a good thing to get, and it's not that expensive a test to get. And we're trying to help people along the way with education, and we need to do more work with stroke people because there's not much help for stroke patients.
Right.
And I'd like to see some therapy, and maybe the Cayman Heart Fund might be able to do it in the future if they can raise funds to get the support. And we've now got a new office that is down on Smith Road, near where Cayman Orthopedic Group is.
Yes.
And there's an x-ray place there.
Okay.
And then right across there at where Dr. Adelson's office is in that unit. There's an office at the side road where you go to the hospital in the back. And that's an office right there that's going to be for the Cayman Heart Fund.
Okay.
They've moved it, and they'll be able to have group meetings there. We're hoping maybe to do stress, testing and all, a lot of things.
Oh, beautiful.
So there's a fresh new group there. And I think they're doing, Maureen Cubbin is the chairman, and she's very, very interesting. She used to do the scanning for patients, for people. And we do a lot of free scanning, and they'll still be doing some, which is important.
Yes.
Because what happened is after you got your test, you were able to see a doctor for free. We'd have doctors volunteer, cardiologists volunteer their time for a day. And then if somebody's reports were off, they would be able to see a doctor for free. So hopefully that will continue.
Yeah.
So there's a new movement, I think.
Yeah, very important work, for sure.
And Ali Olaru is the executive director, and she's really passionate about it. She's very sweet, very passionate.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So we've got a few other things. We're going to go over here and have a look at some photos and different artifacts and stuff that you've got as part of the decor in your home. They're on display, so I think this is just absolutely beautiful. So let's move on over there.
That's Carl Bush. That's a picture my daughter had taken of 3 guys in a catboat. And I asked her if I could paint it. Sherry Ebanks. She's done some beautiful photography. And these.
When did you start painting?
I painted all my life.
All your life.
And
wow.
then this one's my favorite. Maybe we should move the.
Yeah.
You know who that is? Mr. Howell.
Oh, of course.
Yeah. And that was at his birthday party when he celebrated his birthday.
Amazing.
And I believe at his funeral. But he was upset about it because he didn't want to show his hair white. He colored his hair.
Oh my goodness.
And then that's Dunn's River Falls.
Wow. So you've always painted then?
Yeah.
Beautiful. Huh. Truly amazing.
This jar, this was from East End. It's an old olive jar. These are off of Columbus's ships.
Oh, wow. How did you get these?
Not
these are
me,
beautiful.
this is Bob's.
Oh.
There's a Bob's. My goodness sakes. Poor old monkeys covered up. Anyway, these are off of Columbus's ships.
Wow.
There were 2 lost in Haiti, outside of Haiti. These are from Machu Picchu, this group. This is a ring, an old ship's ring that is very old. And this is one of Bob's treasures. A tooth?
That's a tooth.
Well, we're not sure.
Yeah.
And then this is a cannonball. It's very heavy. Then these were my artifacts I had. I think Bob married me to get my artifacts. So this is like Costa Rica. These were from Costa Rica. These were grave diggings, and they're for keeping evil spirits out of the graves. So that was my fascination. I went on one day. I always wanted to go archaeologically to digging, and I got to St. Lucia, and I did one in a river, and I found a valuable artifacts.
Wow.
And the government wouldn't let me have it. They wanted it for their museum.
Yes.
So they gave me this little piece. It looks like a head of a turtle. Anyway,
Wow.
so I took that instead, and it's there in their
Mhm.
museum. So that was exciting.
Mhm.
These are from Little Cayman.
Hmm.
One day I asked one of my grandkids to go get my glasses. I was
Mhm.
in the office, and they came with a pair of these glasses.
Oh my
I said,
goodness.
no, that's not.
Wow.
Then these are, as you can see, these are cut cannonballs because they cut them and they put them so that when they would be shot out, they'd shatter and they get the sails mixed up and stuff. So yeah, so
beautiful.
these
Now,
are-
of course, I see that there is a certificate of honor. Tell us a little bit about this.
That was
Wow.
quite a big honor.
Absolutely. It's
Yeah.
beautiful. Yeah. So Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, the certificate of honor is awarded. Wow. So for your services in tourism back in June of 2003.
I used to run free seminars for the maids and things, and try and get people interested in tourism.
Yes. And there's something here about Cayman shipbuilding industry.
Right.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Huh.
And there's
And is that
Robin.
you all the way up there in that car?
That's me and Chris Bergstrom and Jimmy Bergstrom.
Oh my goodness.
And I think there's a third in there. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I see the two boys for sure.
It's two boys.
Oh, wow.
And then these are the catboats with the
Yes.
turtlers. And yes, the way the catboats were made and fashioned out, and then they were fashioned out for the suit the turtlebacks, if you see. And then for the ships, they all were made to fit the catboat across, maybe 4 to 10 catboats in a schooner. And the schooner, the bottom was shaped. So the men were very, very clever.
Right. And who are these young men here?
That's a DaCosta, and that's Bob Soto.
Wow.
Yeah, and this is Bob Soto and Ron Kipp and Jean Michelle Costeau and Mervyn Cumber. And then this is the schooner lost at sea, and that's the picture.
The schooner Hustler lost at sea with all hands, October 1940. Wow. And so Bob Soto lost 2 brothers. Where does the last name Soto come from?
His father was Cuban.
Ah.
His mom was over there working at a factory in the early years.
Okay.
And so
Soto's a Spanish last name. Wow.
So he took his dad's name.
Yes, absolutely.
Rail Baden,
Wow.
Captain Rail. And then that top picture is my heart hero, first heart hero for the Cayman Heart Fund.
Mr.
Robbie Hamity.
Yes.
What a
beautiful.
lovely man he was.
Yes. Absolutely gorgeous. And this is some of your Heart Fund recognition, really, for the amazing job you do.
Well, I never gave myself any, but they
Yes, no.
fooled me a couple of times there.
And how long has the Cayman Heart Fund, it says, on the occasion of our 10th anniversary? So it's been-
2007.
Wow, it's
We
been
started
that,
in 2007.
It's been that long.
Dr. Yin and Dr. Cridland were a big part of it. Kevin Doyle, yeah, and they were great people. Yeah.
Absolutely gorgeous. Wow. So you're leaving behind, I mean, you're still going to be here for a very long time, but you've got an amazing family legacy, professional legacy, and What are some final words? I'm sure there are people who are watching this. I mean, you know, the Cayman Voices segment, our most popular series for sure on Cayman Mall Road. People love the history. They love learning about, I say that our individual stories becomes our collective history.
Yes.
Because that's who we are.
I'm glad you're doing that.
As a people, right?
Yes.
So what sort of, you know, final words would you like to say to our listening audience who are watching this?
For people to have faith.
Mm-hmm.
Without faith, you're going to be lost.
Yes.
Many times. We face so many problems in life. I do not know how anyone can get through it thinking they get through it without any faith. And so I would say have faith and never give up.
Yes.
Never give up.
Yes.
You're a fighter.
Yes.
You're a fighter. Not to
Thank you
give up.
so much. Yeah, this is beautiful. Well, thank you so much for taking the time out of your schedule to spend a little bit with us. And, you know, I found it so fascinating. Really, really appreciate it.
We only touched about a half.
I know. Oh, I know. But we need to get the book. Make sure, folks, if you don't have a copy of that, it can be found at the local bookstore here.
No, I'm giving you a present.
Oh my gosh, I'm going to get my own copy. I'm so excited. Oh, thank you so much. Absolutely beautiful. Thank you.
There are pictures of Cayman that we hold in our minds, and those impressions remain with us through the course of time. It's really a collection of the things we've done and seen, and if you know this country well, you know just what I mean. Like Louisito Heights making a fish tea, that's Cayman. Cassava cake and cold swanky, that's Cayman. A jobina drink and a beef patty, that's Cayman. And Herbie Martin, that belly, that's Cayman. Georgetown Harbor sleeping quietly on Sunday night. Captain Theo and Rex Crichton making Christmas bright. In Cayman Brack, the cocoa plum covers the ground like grass. And people you don't know at all wave hello as you pass. Country and western and dirty reeds, that's Cayman. Children sucking on a mango seed, that's Cayman. Nor'wester waves in Hogstye Bay, that's Cayman. Pirates Week, East End Day, that's Cayman. Mr. Howell's shoe shop in the older part of town. The Casuarina's leaning on the roadside in South Sound. The lookout on the ocean and seafarer shades of blue. To walk the road at night and find nobody bothers you. Looking crabs with a lit flashlight, that's Cayman. Nobody in town after 9 at night, that's Cayman. People in the airport know you by name, that's Cayman. At Rum Point before the Hyatt came, that's Cayman. A nation is a people living out the lives they choose, celebrating when they win, crying when they lose. Those who say Cayman is not a nation legally, it's very clear to me they missed the point entirely. Smelling jerk pork as you're driving by, that's Cayman. Christmas Christmas beef, button tongue fish fry. That's Cayman. Your car break down, you get a lift to town. That's Cayman. Sunday cricket, agriculture ground. That's Cayman. A downtown beach where children swim. That's Cayman. Mr. Jim, remember him. That's Cayman. Spots landing and Christmas breeze. That's Cayman. Miss Coney, macaroni and cheese.